Hello, everybody. Oh, Louie's guesting. Louie. So that's Louie. Hopefully he will be well behaved and be quiet. But he's been a little bit of a pain this morning. Okay. Let's see here. It is Saturday, June 11th. Today's going to be a little bit different. Normally, I would be starting, where are we on the schedule? Page 18. But I'm ahead. I actually started page 18 several days ago. And part of the reason I'm ahead, well, is because page 17 was no big deal. So I was able to do it pretty fast. But then also I wanted to work ahead a little bit because I've been working on and I don't know what I'm allowed to say, a little bit of a secret project. I'm trying to remember what came up in our, I think I can at least say this much because it came up on our Caspers the other night. I'm working on a variant cover for Scott Serklin's Young and the Dead issue 3 for an upcoming Kickstarter. He's going to do a Kickstarter, I think, next month. He invited me to do a variant cover. I was very flattered. I was happy to do it. It sounded like a nice diversion. It was nice to do something different from what I'm doing for the comic pages, doing color instead of black and white, doing a more comic booky style than like the more, however you would describe my style for D versus M. So I can't show you that yet. I'm not going to show you. I don't show my work when I'm working, but it's almost done. My intention is to finish it today. It just needs some color work. I would say I'm looking at a printout of it right now in front of me. I would say it is 80% of the way. Maybe 85, whatever that means. Arbitrary numbers. But a lot of the flats are already in. Almost all like the lines and everything are all in. Now it's just like little areas I haven't colored yet, and then I want to add like something to it, a little bit of texture, a little bit of like maybe emulate, like go into Photoshop's Kyle's brushes and just add something to make it look a little like, so it's not just solid blocks of flat colors, like add something to it. If not that, maybe like little lighting or gradient thing, just to kind of give it a more finished look, so it doesn't look totally like cell shaded like a cartoon. But I'm happy with it. I feel like it looks pretty cool, if I do say so myself, and I'm excited for people to see it when the Kickstarter goes live. And I'm excited to have done my first comic cover that feels very comic booky. The D versus M covers, which that's a nice segue, are pretty minimalist, pretty graphic, pretty like graphic, not graphic in terms of gory, but graphic, like graphic designery. And like, I remember when I tried to decide like what I want them to look like, I was thinking like, well, if there's like for movie buffs, you'll appreciate this. If there was like a Criterion edition of the D vs. M comics, what would they do the cover like? And I sort of did something like that. So it was nice to just, for the experience of it, to do something that's more like what I would consider like a comic cover, like what you would normally expect to see. And I think that's about it. So that's what we're doing today. Coloring today, I'm hoping not to take even the entire day finishing this cover, because then I want to get back to page 18. So I'm actually technically, as of right now, a little bit ahead of where I would normally be. But that's why, like tomorrow I won't be. So that's why I must finish Young and the Dead cover today. Today is my pencils down day, because then I need to get back to my thing. which is very doable. I'm looking at it right now, and I think it's like almost there. So let's get my art program open and start. So what I'm going to be doing is I've been going back and forth from Photoshop and Illustrator. I think this will be my last round in Illustrator with the cover, tweaking some things. And then I'll be exporting it. But I gotta do it. Actually, I gotta export some layers individually because I did my pass at the title of the comic, which my understanding is Scott may or may not use. So I'll need that so it can be dropped out in case he decides he wants to put his own in. So I got it. That will be a layer. And then I'm trying to think if there are any other layers I want here. I know I had initially told him, Scott, if you're watching, that I would give him a version that was just strict black and white, that he could just have as a black and white or sell or like color himself. But the way now I've made it, like, there's no real way, there's no good way to separate that out. Sorry. So like it'll be pretty much like a fixed thing, but you'll be able to drop the title out if you want to do your own title. And so I'm just trying to, I'm looking at this and going through my, like, what do I need to have this useful and versatile for him? I think that's it. I think it'll be fine. Okay. All right. Frank, I see. Thanks for letting me start without you. If you want to pop in later, let me know, and I'll shoot you a link. And that goes to anyone who shows up in the chat. All right, here we go. Let's finish this thing. I didn't really have. Oh, there was one more thing before I go too deep into this. I was like, did I have anything I wanted to talk about today? There is. So, Jacob's Apartment by my buddy Josh Kemble is out. It's available, orderable, where all books are sold, or you could go to your comic book shop and ask for it. I had hoped to have read this and have kind of a hot take review today, but I haven't even started it yet. I'm sorry, Josh, but I fully intend to, and when I do, I'll talk to you all about like my thoughts. But and it sounds like I'm being silly. I'm totally serious. Like, I love the cover. I love the feel of it. Like, it feels high quality. It feels like a good book. Just breezing through it. I know, like, it drives comic creators crazy when you do this because it's like, no, yeah, you're reading it all out of order. You're seeing all the spoilers and stuff. But like, I love how it looks on the inside. I'm very excited to read it. I'm hoping, like, it's just been because I've been busy with getting ahead on my work and then working on Scott's cover and all this other stuff. I just haven't had a good chunk of time to sit down and read this. So hopefully tonight, at worst tomorrow, like, I'm going to sit and give this a shot. Very excited, but I've heard good things. Like I said, I'll give you my reaction to it probably next time. Consider supporting him. Like, go and check it out. Yeah, so same thing, Chase. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if it was like some little, like, 18-page floppy, of course I would have read it by now. But this is a thing, and it's not a thing I want to read like 3 pages at a time. Like, I want to, something like this, I want to, especially after the experience of 2 stories, I know, like, I kind of want like some space, some time to, like, concentrate rather than just like take it in like you would I don't know, a Thor comic or something. Anyway, how is it going, man? Good to see you. Corey Kerr around. Let's see here. Nice. All right. Now, I think that was let me make sure that was all my checklist items before I get back to screwing with this cover. I'm looking at all my notes and garbage. All right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's always my preferred anyway. The idea of like finding some art. I mean, I don't know if this is like two stories where there's obvious breaks here and there where you could step away, but ideally I would like to just go all the way through it. Okay. I wish I could share, like, this would have been a thing, like it's far enough along where I wouldn't mind just sort of showing you what I've got so far with this cover, but again, like we're preserving the secrecy, and it's not my thing to share. But I can tell you, this doesn't really spoil or surprise won't spoil or surprise anyone. There's zombie stuff on the cover, so. And I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to settle on what color I wanted my zombie flesh to be. And it's tough, and I don't know if this sounds weird. Oh, I'm sure it sounds weird, but I, with my sort of unusual professional and academic background, have seen lots of bodies at various stages of decomposition. So some of it is an interesting, it's the difference between knowing what it does look like what a zombie probably would look like, and what a zombie, like in the popular, like what it should look like to look like a zombie, and so it's like, I think my first pass at like, well, I'll do the zombie a little bit like this, I think it was like, well, I think that's a little too true to life. So let's go back and consult with the creator. And that's why I actually, at one point, I did message Scott, and I was like, I'm talking to the mastermind here. What's the canon color of zombies? Like, what color would their blood be? Like, what in your universe? Like, how are you picturing that? Now, one thing I knew for sure, like, he was like, no red blood, which I understand, but I would have assumed, like, yeah, you're probably not doing, just from the level that I can tell Young and the Dead is aimed at, you're probably not doing red blood. But it was like, do you want it like black? Do you want it green? Do you want it like weird purple? Like, what, just so. And his comic, like mine, is black and white. He does gray tones. But it was fun to like, hey, what color do you picture these people's eyes being? And what color, you got a rabbit's foot here. What color is it? And I could tell with some of them, like, he's like, he'd never really thought about it because he's drawing it black and white. So that's kind of fun. It was fun to play with the toys in another person's playground. I don't do it a lot, but every once in a while, like I did some kind of fan art for Frank and Anna. That was fun to do. And now doing this, like, it's kind of fun to go through someone's work and try to decide, like, well, how would I draw that? Like, what's my spin on that? I hope he's satisfied or like sort of intrigued or interested in it. But yeah, I thought about it. Mine is not going to be a pulp. It's I don't know how you describe it. Once it's out there, people can tell me what it looks like. But I did, of course, think about like kind of like the D versus M pulp covers. Like maybe I'll do like a pulp version. The main reason I didn't is because I knew I'd have a very compressed schedule where I'd be squeezing it in between pages of D versus M. And the painted look I did for the pulp cover of 97, which I loved the look of, and it looked super pulpy authentic, took a long time. It was hard. And just because I'm not particularly good or experienced at that. And I knew I wasn't going to have that kind of time. So this is more like traditionally comic looking. The other thing I considered, I will tell you one thing. I did consider an homage cover. I don't think this is too much. You know, only 7 people are watching this. It's probably fine. But he only had 2 real design requests, which I appreciated. I appreciated having like a little bit of, you know, open, but he wanted 2 particular characters featured on the cover. And he wanted like 2 specific characters, not just any 2. He picked out this person and this person. And he wanted a vehicle that's in the book, like on the cover. And of course, my head immediately when I was like, okay, well, how am I going to work this all in? You can't, at least if you know anything about comics, you can't help but think of the classic like Superman introduction. I think it's his first comic where he's holding the car up above him, and I was like, well, maybe I could have like do like an homage to that, like drawn like that, but like it's riding a wave of zombies or something. But I ended up ruling out, first of all, because it's like lots of people have done their sort of wink and nod at that cover, and so it didn't set well to just do that again, you know. And then I didn't think you'd be able to see the characters very well, because like if you're seeing the whole car, like you'd see their little heads back behind the window, but that's not, you know. So I ruled it out. But that was an original. I was going to actually pitch that to him. I was going to give him like an A or a B. Like, do you want this weird Superman homage or do you want this other idea? And as I started developing them and sketching them out, I was like, I'm not feeling the Superman thing. I don't feel like it's that creative. Like I like I'm happier with my B cover, so I'm not even going to give him the option. So again, Scott, if you're watching, if you're like, I would have really liked the Superman one. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, but you can do it. Go for it. Yes, I was talking about zombie flesh. Okay. So you guys are gonna have to bear with me. I'm only on one monitor. So while I'm like screwing with the art, I'm not seeing the chat. So I will, you know, pop back and forth. But let's see. Yeah, and you know, or like the Wolverine cover, you know, with like the one of him like this, you know, like there are some covers where it's like, no, I get what you're doing, and it's funny and it can be cool, but it's certainly not original, you know. And this might sound like a weird humble brag. It's really not. It actually becomes like a little bit of a burden. Like anytime I get a feel like this has been done, like I'm not I immediately lose interest. Like I kind of burden myself with this pressure to try to do something I haven't seen before, you know. But I don't know, and it's very hard. That's very hard, maybe impossible to do. Like everything's been done, but that was a Bare Naked Ladies song. I think it's all been done. But I'm very much of the school of thought of like when I'm trying to come up with an idea, generally speaking, the first idea I can always dump. Even if you like it, even if it sounds pretty good, because in my experience, that's usually like the cultural zeitgeist idea, like the most obvious take, you know. And that's, so it's like, you know, so if I'm sitting brainstorming like for a script idea or how to draw a panel or whatever, Like there's the first idea, and it's like, okay, now we got that out of the way. What else you got? And I'm more interested in the second and third and fourth and fifth idea for myself, like what's coming up, you know, I usually find the first one. It was a conversation I had with Dan Ekus once. I wonder how he's doing. He's been less active, I feel like, on the social media, which is not a bad thing. Maybe we should all aspire to be. Well, I should see if he wants to come on sometime. I miss having conversations with him. But I was telling him once, the analogy was, I think a lot of times when we're being creative, I don't know if you've seen like these pictures in Europe, or if you've been lucky enough to been to Europe. I have not. There's these old Roman roads, cobblestone roads, and they have like grooves down them where the wagon wheels rolled over them for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years, and just kind of, you know, carved these sort of like tracks almost for the wagons to go down. I think sometimes when it comes to creativity, that's how our brains are. You know, if I asked you, like, you know, make up a fairy tale right now, tell me something. It's like, well, you know, there would be something, whatever you came up with. There's a boy who lives in this little village on the edge of a dark wood. And stories say that in the woods, like, and it's all going to sound very familiar because it is familiar. It's a remix of something we've all heard. Like, that's what I mean with like the first idea. So, you know, if I say like, give me an idea for a fairy tale and you spit it out, I have a feeling it will be like, yep, yeah, that's a good one. Now give me another one. And that's where you start maybe getting something individual and different and unique, I think. Okay, I'm going to work a little bit, not look at the chat. Bear with me. I'm fixing some lines. Who is what? I'm actually, you know what? I'm not going to ask that because I don't know if I want to open that can of worms. Actually, now I've already said it. Now it's weird, right? Who's watching Kenobi? What's the thought on Kenobi? Jim Lujan and I have been talking about it a lot. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to say I'll say this. You know what's frustrating, what's disappointing? The internet ruins everything. And in this case, example number 8,638,714 of how the internet ruins everything. There's been a lot of well-publicized, horrendously bad takes on Kenobi, like for shitty, gross reasons, you know, like weird racist things, weird, like, you know, vaguely sexist things, just like the internet, you know, being what the internet is, just sort of horrible. And fandom, not all fandom, but elements of fandom just sucking. But that in and itself is bad. But what I was thinking what's bad about it is it's kind of made it so you're like legitimate, fair, above board criticism of the show. Like you kind of don't want to do it because you don't want to be lumped in with the gross crowd. You know, like just even by association, you know, like I'm just afraid of being like, hypothetically, I don't love Kenobi, and like some horrible racist or some sort of piece of shit online. It's like, yeah, me neither. You and me, man. It's like, no. I'm not like you. I don't like it for the reasons you don't like it. Like, it's the reasons I don't like it aren't the same as your reasons. Like, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'm caught up on it. I've seen the first 4. I guess there's only 2 left. I didn't realize it was so short. Yeah, he's a little. Here's the one thing I will say about it. Yeah, I'm totally behind on the boys. I think I saw like the first season, so I would be lost if I tried to pick it up. Yeah, see, this is what I'm afraid of right here. This is why I'm being very careful about Kenobi, even though I'm a huge Star Wars fan and I feel like I kind of want to talk about it, but I know I'm not like going to gush about it, and I don't want to be lumped in with the Franks of the world. So what was I gonna say here? Yeah, Nerf Kenobi. Here's the one thing I will comfortably say about Kenobi, because I'm a strong, staunch, vigorous defender of The Last Jedi. It's my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time. I thought it was great. I loved it. Okay. Second after Empire Strikes Back, of course. Like, Empire Strikes Back is always the top. This mildly irritates me. And I know it's always a mistake to look at comments on the internet and say, but last week you were saying this. It's not the same people. Like, it's all different people. You can't just make internet collective an individual, one schizophrenic individual with like a multitude of contradictory opinions. Like, who knows if they. But my impression is there were all these people for The Last Jedi. It's like, Luke would never be that way. Oh, Luke, that's not my Luke Skywalker. Look at how sad and stupid he's being. What a coward. Come on, where's hero Luke? Meh. Like this about Last Jedi. Kenobi heads. You see Ben Kenobi doing the exact same shit, if not worse, arguably worse. And you've got all these, again, schizophrenic fans. It's like, oh, McGregor, yeah, this is amazing. You guys, I don't. Yeah. Oh, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Yeah. It's only a matter of time. But I don't think that really has any power over me. Like, I don't know. I'm not on Twitter, so how would I even know? Let's see here. I'm interpreting what you probably. I'm assuming there's a typo here. Scarlett, get back here and mow the lawn. Did that work? Is that sort of what you were looking for? You know, I honestly don't know if I've ever actually seen Trainspotting, the first one, beginning to end. I know it was like a kind of a big deal when I was in college, and I remember seeing bits of it, but I don't know if I ever saw the whole thing. Yeah. Alec Guinness is. Here's another thing I feel very safe saying. Like, he doesn't look nearly old enough. And I know, like, age-wise, I'm glad I could help, Scarlett. I know age-wise, like, maybe it sort of matches up. Like, Alec Guinness wasn't as old as you thought in A New Hope. He just looked old. I think they should have made Ben Kenobi look much older. Like, this is only 10 years before New Hope. Like, boy, he falls off a cliff, I guess. And then you know, and I hate to even engage in this because to me it's like it's just on its face not done great. But like when he makes his appearance in Rebels, he looks like a New Hope Ben. And that's 5 years before A New Hope. So the Ben we're seeing in Kenobi in 5 years is like, what is... I don't understand. Maybe, oh, this is what you do. Here. Guys, Disney, I fixed it for you. I fixed it. You're welcome. This one's on me. This is free. Have him get hit by a bunch of Force lightning, like Palpatine, when it was reflected back on him and it kind of made them all like, there we go. And just roll him up like 20 years. There we go. There we go. You're welcome. You're welcome. No, but that's all in the prequels. They made everyone entirely too young. Anakin was too young. Obi-Wan was too young. Everybody, like the idea that Anakin is like in Return of the Jedi, what, in his 40s or something? That's weird. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And how old is Kenobi supposed to be in A New Hope? Like now there's, I guess by the current canon, he'd be in his 50s. That's some high mileage 50s, man. That's some shitty looking 50s. Okay, back to cleaning up lines. That's all I'm saying about Kenobi today. That's it. I can't because I don't want to. I'm dying to, but I'm not gonna. 6 out of 10. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Kenobi is the crown, like, of all the Star Wars stuff, Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of your crown jewel, you know? And it's Star Wars, guys. Shouldn't this be like the best show? Shouldn't it be like the fact that any of it is not quite working? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand how you're hitting it out of the park with stuff like real B-tier heroes like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But then Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're kind of like scratching your head through it. Like, how is that even... Why does those first few episodes, it looks like a 90s Star Trek The Next Generation episode? Like, are they... Now, this most recent one, the fourth one, the effects, like, now I'm seeing like some budget. But like, what? Anyway, I'm sorry. Like, I can't. I can't. That's it. Moving on now. I want to finish this with the original English. Yeah, I have the. You can find them if you look around on the internet. Oh, what is the name of it? The despecialized edition. You can get it on Blu-ray. Some maniac has gone and redone the original movies in high def, 1080p. No, it's. I don't think they have a it's Blu-ray. It's not. I don't think they have a. I don't know if a 4K would even be possible. But they've gone back. They have like work prints. They have like some old film of like the original. They have like all these different sources, the Laserdisc and all these different things, and they've kind of pieced them all together and remastered everything and tried to get it as close as humanly possible without Disney's assistance to what you would have seen in the theater in 1977 and 80 and 82 or whatever the release dates of the original trilogy was. If you look around on the internet, it's available. It's free if you want to, if you're comfortable finding like places to download, or if you're not a tech person, if you don't want to explore the bowels of the internet, if you go to like Etsy and eBay, there's always someone selling like burned prepared discs of the despecialized edition of the trilogy. And you can get, all it looks like how you saw it, at least how I saw it when I was a kid, not like all the weird CG stuff, the weird extra music number and Return of the Jedi, Anakin appearing as the ghost, which I always found very problematic. I didn't like this idea that I just like in a like a theological, the theological position being presented there, that he basically is his pre-Vader self in the afterlife is strange to me. But anyway, it's available. You can get it. You can get it for free if you know how to work the series of tubes that is the internet. Yeah, you know what? I defend Hayden Christensen. Like, if you've seen Shattered Glass, the guy's a great actor. Natalie Portman's a great actress. It was 100% the direction. And to be fair to Kenobi, I think that's a huge part of what's going on with Kenobi. I think the direction's just not very good. And the things that are working are actors who can do well in spite of lacking or poor direction. Like Ewan McGregor, like he did in the prequels, you know? Some actors can manage. I also think there's like this problem with the lensing. Like something Jim and I were talking about, it's working really well for the close-up stuff, like when you're getting the facial reactions and acting and stuff like that. Anytime you get back and far away, there's something that looks cheesy and kind of cheap and unimaginative about it. That's where it starts looking like a Star Trek episode. And I don't know. I'm not familiar with this director's work or the cinematographer or who's going on. I'm assuming they're very good at doing close TV acting stuff and not a lot of this. For example, okay, like I think it was episode 3, there was that laser gate and everyone was joking on the internet, like, rather than worry about shutting on the gate, why don't you just walk around it? Like, it's on this like shallow hill. You could just walk around the gate. Why not just do that? It seems silly. To me, that's a framing problem. You could have framed that in a way where that's not even a question. That's a direction or a cinematographer, that's a lensing issue. Same with like the Leia chase, I think in episode 1 or 2, when she's evading the kidnappers. It looks ridiculous. There's all these kidnappers going up to like low obstacles or like a tree and like, like they can't get around it. That's a framing problem. That when the audience can see like, that's just shot badly. Like, that's not anybody's the performance's part. It's just not, I don't know. Anyway. Mr. Kerr.
Hello.
There he is.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay.
Here's my problem with Kenobi.
Okay, let's hear it.
I
really, really intended not to. I just couldn't help it once I started. Every time I think about it, I get frustrated. Please go ahead.
I am a lot less critical of Star Wars and Marvel things intentionally because it's escapism for me, and so I'm just going to enjoy it no matter what. And so it has to be really off to bug me.
Yeah.
And so I'm enjoying it. It's fine. The one thing that I don't like is the personality of Obi-Wan Kenobi in battles is that he is like, he is so good that he's like having a good time, like he'll be fighting like thousands of battle droids.
Yeah.
And he'll be laughing and quipping and doing his little 2-finger thing and kind of
whatever he wants,
sparring with everybody. And in this, it's like, I get that he's a downtrodden, beaten down Ben, type of thing or whatever. And I can fully understand where they're wanting to come from with that because like everybody that he just grew up with, like all of his friends and family have been murdered by one of his best friends. Right. And so that'll beat you down. But then he's not going to be scared in a battle. and he kind of is fighting scared. Like when he's deflecting, like there's like 6 stormtroopers, which for him is literally nothing.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, there's some where there's like, okay, where he's like putting the gun down and he shoots the guy as he's putting the gun down. I'm like, that's Kenobi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he does that in Rebels. He does it in Clone Wars, where he's like, he surrenders and then kills everyone or whatever, you know?
Right.
But then like he's deflecting blaster bolts as if it's a real threat. And he's like, you know, and it's like, to him, you're not going to lose that
for like 15 years, you know, like, he's how many blaster bolts has he deflected in his lifetime?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands,
right?
You know, because literally every battle that he's been into, which I don't know why this was, but it seems like with like 10,000 Jedi, they only had 2 that were willing to like jump into, or maybe like half a dozen that were willing to like jump into battle. They're like, well, who could we send? I don't know. I guess we could send Anakin and Kenobi again. You know, it was like every major battle, it was like, well, let's send those 2.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it was like Plo Koon or something like that. But I mean, in all reality, that would be like, for you and me, it wouldn't even be like drawing, because that still is, I think, a skill that we have used less than he has deflected blaster bolts.
Right.
It is probably like brushing your teeth. Like you've had a traumatic experience and you start showering and then you're like, I've forgotten how to do this. I've forgotten how to wash my armpits. You know, I've done this 10,000 times, you know, in my lifetime by this point.
I totally agree. And that's why I think what would have been, and I hate, and I keep doing this, and I really hate it when I see other people doing online, like rewriting a Star Wars, but I just can't. I think it would have been maybe better to explore like him being out of practice as opposed to being fearful and you know, like it just not going the way he expected, like making like stupid little mistakes because he just hasn't done it in 10 years.
Right.
You know,
because I think he buried his lightsaber.
Yeah. So like little like
but I think he would smile.
You think
you know what I mean? I think he would smile. If no one dies and like Leia doesn't get hurt and he deflects a blaster bolt into the glass instead of directly at a target like he, you know, has done hundreds of times.
Right.
I think he'd be like, whoops.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he would kind of laugh it off and smile and be like, this is kind of fun. I remember enjoying this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, no, that's totally. It's,
yeah.
I don't know. And when I was talking about this with Jim, I think the only reason, like, I generally am a little checked out of the Star Wars series stuff because it's not, I care about the movies, you know, like, and it's not like, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, it's the original trilogy and all the rest is crap. Like, that's not, I actually really enjoyed Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. I thought they were great, you know, so it's not like, oh, I'm an anti-Disney Star Wars. It's a lot of the series stuff that's just not for me. And when it comes to like Mandalorian and Boba Fett, I sort of casually watched them, but I didn't really care because I've never cared about that aspect of the Star Wars galaxy. You know, it's not like I thought, oh, it's trash. It's just like, I've never been a bounty hunter guy. Like, I just don't, or the Mandalorian stuff, I don't care about it. Like, I'm more interested in the Jedi stuff. But this one, I think, has me more #triggered because I do love the original trilogy. And I love the idea of Kenobi as a character. So there is an interest in like, and Vader, you know, Anakin / Vader. So there is an interest in like, so what are you doing with these two, you know, again, crown jewels of your Star Wars universe? I mean, there's more interest. And again, I'm always really interested in like, how are we getting to A New Hope in a way that makes sense and doesn't contradict anything and doesn't undermine anything, you know, and like, and that's, so I'm watching it through, admittedly, probably a more critical lens.
And that's why
I also feel like, and this is easy to say, there's no reason why this show shouldn't be spectacular. and just an unequivocal hit. And the fact that it's anything less than that, the analogy I gave Jim, and this sounds like, again, like a weird humble brag, but it's, I remember when I was in high school, I got a B or something on a test, and it was like a B- or something. And the teacher after class was sort of like, this wasn't a great performance from you. And I think defensively, I was like, well, it's still a B, like it's not like the end of the world. And he's like, yeah, but a B for you is like a C for the other students. Like that to me is like Kenobi being okay is shitty. Like to me, like, Kenobi should be, at worst, very good, and that's where I'm like frustrated, where it's like, there's no reason why the scope of this shouldn't be bigger. There's no reason why like the writing shouldn't be tighter. There's no reason why this shouldn't all be a little bit better thought out and shot. And, but I don't know. Who am I?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's, I think they're struggling with, a couple of things. One is, I actually like a lot of the not movie stuff more than the movies. So we're coming at it from totally, because I remember watching the prequels and I really enjoyed the prequels. They do not hold up well, but I enjoyed them as a teenager.
Yeah.
And the things that I enjoyed as a teenager, I still enjoy. I mean, backflipping off of a speeder bike and landing and igniting two, lightsaber blades. I mean, that's just, the 16-year-old me will always be excited about that.
Yeah.
And the fighting was way cooler,
Very fun. Yeah. Especially that original like Maul Kenobi duel in Phantom Menace was really neat. It was really, I still think about like that blocking behind the back, where he does that and then chops. So cool. But anyway.
Well, and just the staging of it, of like having the intermittent walls go up so that you get to have some one-on-one, even though it's a 2-on-1 fight. That, it was well staged. But what George Lucas was trying to do is what he did in the original trilogy, is each one of those movies was based on a different influence of his. And he started with some incredible influences, which is like Akira Kurosawa movies and things like that, basing it on like ancient Greek, lore and all that. Flash Gordon, yeah. But he moved into, and there's he's got quotes saying that of what he was doing, and that the fans just didn't get it, is he read a lot of like 20s and 30s pulp books, and he based a lot of the dialogue on like romance pulp from the 30s.
Yeah.
And so that's why it sounds so, because like Padme, like you said, she's a good actress. And like in this, the girl, I don't know if have you seen The Queen's Gambit?
No, I haven't. I've been meaning, like, I've heard it's great, but.
So the woman who plays the main Inquisitor that's going after Kenobi.
Whatever, yeah. Like, I think her name is Moses something, yeah. I heard she's very good in other things.
She's in The Queen's Gambit, and she's great in it.
Yeah.
And she's great in it. And so that makes me think that, like, this is a writing in a direction, because here's where it comes down to it for me. I instantly knew in Mandalorian that Din Djarin was two things: very interesting as a character, and I cared about his success, and he's a super bad A. Like within the first scene, they established that this is a character that you are going to be very interested in finding out what's going on with him. Yeah. It's mysterious, all that stuff. And he's super hardcore. Whereas in Boba Fett, if I had no other canon to go off of, there is literally nothing in that, not even the first episode, but in that entire show, where I would think this is like the best bounty hunter in the galaxy.
Right.
And I should care about him.
Yeah.
Like that scene was in The Mandalorian when he like gets his, Jaffe stick, I can't remember what the stick is called, but he gets a stick and he fights off like all of these stormtroopers, and it's like, that dude is hardcore. But then in his own show,
He's
he's
not.
this nerfed, watered down weakling, and it's like we still need. So I think they're struggling to figure out how to make us care about and be invested in the titular character.
Yeah.
And so whenever they do one of these spinoffs, like I'm really worried now about Ahsoka's spinoff because she is a really cool character and she has showed up well in live action and in cartoon. But when they do her own, if she doesn't show up as like a hardcore bad A that's funny and caring and I'm invested in her character within the first episode, it's bad writing. There's no other way to say that.
Right. No,
because that's what the first episode is for.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
let's see here. A lot of the prequels grew on me. I don't think I hated them. Yeah, so I do think my prequel relationship is difficult. But I actually like to just the level of Star Wars fan, like I camped out for all three. Like I was there. In fact, here in town, they had a thing, the lineup, there was the large movie theater in town. They had a thing where it was a great system. Like if you wanted to wait in line for the movie for opening night, you would sign up into this thing, you would get a number, and when you spent time in line, you would basically log in and log out like a job. And at the last day, they would go through the spreadsheet and order everyone based on the number of hours accrued in line. It was like kind of a great system. So like at the time, like I would go to work. I think I was single at the time. I think it would have to be, at least for Attack of the Clones I was. And yeah, I'd bring my folding chair and a book and I would go and sit in the Star Wars line with the geeks, like sign in, talk Star Wars, read a book, hang out till like 2 or 3 in the morning, rack up some hours, like log out and go home. And like for like a couple weeks of that, like then they tally up the hours. And I think I was number 17 in line or something on opening night. But so like I was super hyped. And I feel like, I feel like they got progressively worse. Like I wouldn't say Phantom Menace is a great movie. I do think it's the best of the prequels, which a lot of people, they can't even wrap their brain around. They always say like Revenge of the Sith is the best. I thought Revenge of the Sith was frustrating because
I was getting mixed up. Is that the second one or the third one?
Revenge of the Sith is the last one. The Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar, like the whole thing. I thought, I think some of this was just decisions made early on in terms of like the timing, like how old to make people and when to do things. There's
a huge thing. I remember thinking, we're gonna watch this 9-year-old sweet little innocent boy, turn into the most evil villain ever,
right?
And there's gonna be this progression that's gonna be really interesting to watch,
right?
None of that happened in the first one.
Right.
None of it happened in the second one, except for like there were some hints where you're kind of like
weird little hints, and hints
like, that's kind of
a way that I would not. Again, and I'm not trying to rewrite, but the way they make Anakin out to be in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and now in Kenobi, is more of like a serial killer sociopath than like. Right. What I would have imagined from the original trilogy as like a totalitarian, heavy, someone right. who, like, my impression from the original trilogy is this guy, and this is where I thought the prequels were going to go. There was civil war happening forever, and he was sick and tired of Jedi half measures and Senate half measures. And he's like, we could end this today if people would man up, and he would like, that was going to be the operating principle for him. Instead, it turned into like him having like, they made him basically like, forgive if it's too soon, but like a school shooter. Like he's just this guy who just goes off, and like that didn't seem like the Vader I knew from the original trilogy. Vader seems like if nothing else, rational. Like, you know, he's despicable and he's horrifying, but it's very calculated. Like, you're in my way, so you gotta go, you know? Where like in the original trilogy, it's like, they hurt my mom, so I murdered all the kids. You know, or like in Revenge of the Sith, like, oh, the Jedi didn't promote me, so like, you know, they're all sons of bitches. Like, it's just, it's way like this kind of selfish, weird, like motivation, cloudy motivation.
Which I'm okay with if it ends up on the screen, but so much of it is supposed to be implied from like one or two scenes.
Yeah.
Whereas that's one of the reasons why I like the cartoons better than the movies, is because, you know, in 7 or 8 seasons you have a lot more time to do that, and you actually see I could actually see how this guy turns.
Right. And that's a shame. It's a shame that it took, you know, whatever, 117 episodes of Clone Wars to make that make sense. Right. And to me, it's like the prequels, the only reason for the prequels to exist is to stick the landing of how basically a young Luke Skywalker type turns into a Darth Vader. And in my opinion, the prequels blew it. Like, they didn't make that case. They didn't do that in an artful or a comprehensible way. And to me, that's why, like, Revenge of the Sith, like people love it, and I get why they love it, and I'm not being dismissive about it, but they get it because it has the most action, and it has the best effects, and you see the big lightsaber duels, and like, it's the darkest and the weirdest. Like, it's got a lot going for it. But in terms of why are we all here, I felt like, no, like, it failed. Like, in the span of like 20 minutes, he goes from like whining to Padme about like, I'm not the Jedi I want to be, to murdering children. You know, like, I mean, it just like, what's
that wasn't, yeah. And really, that was a pivotal point where you see Palpatine start like grooming him, and you see these little comments and whatever. And then he goes there to confront him as the Sith, tells Mace Windu about it, is like, this is happening.
Right.
And then the least effective argument that you could ever possibly imagine, and he's like, Anakin Skywalker, the headstrong, you know, like full of bluster, like jumps off of a spaceship in the middle of Coruscant and then just hopes to land on another car or something.
Right.
That guy decides, I'll just kneel down and start worshiping this dude. I will just totally subject myself because he said one sentence. BS, there is no way.
And to save Padme, which now, but it shows how muddied the writing was, and like the real, like, why is this happening? How are we going from A to B? To save Padme. Once Padme is dead, what's in theory now, like, this all kind of falls apart. Like, and then again, like, I don't understand so they've got like weird, like, half written trails of how he got from A to B. Like, well, he resents the Jedi. Well, he feels like the Jedi are acting like they're threatened by him and don't trust him. Well, he's worried about Padme dying. Now, I thought they did a pretty good job of establishing, like, he needs to be strong to prevent death. Like, this idea, like, which is a little weird, but it's like, okay, like the mom, and now, you know, he's worried about Padme, but it's not clear. I'm not understanding what he's thinking, you know, and I'm not understanding what Palpatine is, how he's going to use this. Like, none of it's very well communicated in the movie. It just feels clunky, and it feels like they're throwing a lot of shit on the board and seeing what sticks, and none of it really works. I can't tell what Anakin's motivations are. And again, I feel like the prequels should be all about Anakin's motivations. Like, that's what that's why we're making these movies, right? Like, what it should be about watching a hero fall. And we didn't really see that. Like, we kind of, it just started like werewolfing him. Like, suddenly, like, you'd be going along and he seems like, well, he's kind of whiny, he's kind of a brat, he's kind of pissy. And then all of a sudden he'd do something horrific. And then he would go back to, like, sort of just being a whiny, sullen boy, and then he'll do something horrific again. And now all of a sudden he's just in full tyrant mode. I don't know. So anyway, Phantom Menace I thought was an interesting setup, and I'm very curious if fan feedback or audience feedback on Phantom Menace made Lucas do any course correcting that the series was worse for.
It did on Jar Jar.
Yeah. Well, seeing that, like, maybe that's not the end of the world. But like, to me, Revenge of the Sith especially felt like, well, they want to see like crazy lightsaber madness. Like, let's throw a lot of that in there, and they want to see Anakin going full Vader. Like, let's throw that in there. Like, it just, I don't know. Sometimes, even though I like to think that Lucas is fairly disinterested in what the audience wants or thinks.
Oh, that's not true.
I felt like, what's that?
That's not true at all, though.
Yeah, see, and I think there's maybe too much, and I'm kind of curious what the prequels would have looked had Phantom Menace been very well received. I mean, it made $1 gazillion, but had everyone said like, "This is great, Star Wars is back, it's amazing," like, what would Attack of the Clones or episode 2 and 3 have been like?
Well, I'll tell you. What I think would have been very interesting and definitely would have pissed everybody off is I think Jar Jar Binks would have been revealed to be Palpatine's apprentice.
Like some kind of.
That would be have you seen the Darth Jar Jar?
I have. Yes. Yeah.
It lines up pretty well. Yeah. I read a book. It is not a well-written book, but it's a well-researched book.
Uh-huh.
And it's called the Secrets of Star Wars or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but it's basically this guy goes through and he looks at all of the different like manuscripts and versions of the scripts and compares them to what George Lucas and others that George Lucas had talked to about what was going to basically piece together what was really happening versus what George Lucas wanted us to believe is happening. Yeah. His theory is a little bit kind of like armchair psychologist, but his theory is that George Lucas has been trying to prove something to his dad his entire life, that his dad is a really overly kind of imposing figure that told him that he would never be successful in film, and I can't remember what it was, a plumber or something, he should just do something in trades or whatever. And here George Lucas is, he's making these like weird artsy films and doing all this stuff. And he would do stuff like Indiana Jones as kind of like a throwaway thing and literally tossed it. He was like, "Hey, I got this idea and I just don't want to do it. So you can have it." Stuff like that. And most people don't recognize that was he's so good at was so good at tapping into like what would be popular. The theory of this book is that he listens to the fans and kind of adopted the fandom as a replacement for his father because he could try to please them, not realizing that it's impossible to please tens of millions of people. But like, if you look at the way that he was setting things up, he refuses to be viewed as somebody who is a progressing creator, who like creation kind of grows and you retcon it as needed and it evolves. He needs to be viewed as somebody who had this fully formed vision in his mind when he was born, because he was born perfect and he's always known everything that's going on. And it's very obvious that Luke is not his sibling until there was a contract negotiation problem, and he didn't have several of the main characters, Luke and Han and whatever actors, on contract. And so he had Yoda say to Obi-Wan, "Well, if this doesn't work out, there's another one." Literally, because if he couldn't get the main characters back, they've set up this kind of like the one situation where there has to be another. And then it was a throwaway line that he could use as a branch to make a third movie if he couldn't get any of the actors back, because at that point in time, Harrison Ford was already tired of making the movies, which is
right, right,
and he was like, if I can't get these guys back, I need to be able to build something.
What are we going to do? Yeah, right.
And then so, because at the time, because the Force works differently in every movie, like the rules change every single time.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was very much of like a primogeniture genetic thing. And so he was like, well, it has to be a sibling, and so it can't be Han, it can't be this. And so the book goes through every single character, and the only character that we know basically nothing about is Leia. And so it's like, okay, Leia's a sibling.
Sure. Yeah. The only other. Yeah. So, I remember, I thought his original plan was to maybe do, well, he was going to do it wouldn't have been a sequel trilogy, but he was going to do at least 3 more movies after the original trilogy. And that was going to be about Luke going off to find his sister in the galaxy or something like it, and which was not Leia, and, all these different, this was before Return of the Jedi was locked down. So he had all sorts. Yeah. He's been, in a way, that's sort of, I think, the biggest complaint I have about all of Star Wars is that there's no master plan. Like, people they're flying by the seat of their pants. They're building the rail right in front of the train as it's moving. And that's where you get like this kind of convoluted mess that we have now with these 9 movies, which don't quite, like, because you can tell, like, no one's, in a perfect world, one or a team of people would have written a basic kind of plot for the full sequel trilogy, and then gone to writers and directors saying, like, here are the beats you have to hit. I think what they're kind of doing over at Marvel, I can't tell, but like with the MCU, it seems like, Feige or however you say his name, is going to people and saying, like, this is where you need to end up. You can get there however you want, but this is where you need to end up because we have a master plan. Right. There's no master plan with Star Wars, and that's part of the problem. And the other problem is, like, I do question, some of the people they're making big decisions, and not Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy gets a bunch of shit. I have no opinion on her. I'm talking about, like, the Pablo Hidalgos. Like, these are the people who it's like, you're going to him for all the answers. Why? Like, I remember when he used to just man a fan board. Like, well, and your guy, like,
and you're going to him when Dave Filoni exists.
Well, and that, at least go to Filoni. Who I like, but like Hidalgo, that was the question. It came up in like the 2nd or 3rd episode of Kenobi. Like, Kenobi, I guess it had escaped him that Anakin had survived. So it's like, oh, well, that's kind of weird. Like, has Vader been just basically quiet this whole time? Like, no one has seen Vader in 10 years? And
he didn't no, he didn't know. Did he know that Anakin was Vader?
Yes, but
how did he know that, though?
In Revenge of the Sith, it's clearly laid out. Like, not only does he see a security footage thing of Anakin kneeling before the Emperor and the Emperor calling him Vader, Yoda himself says, the boy you train, something to the effect of, the boy you trained Anakin is no longer there. Only Darth Vader remains. Something like that.
Right, yeah.
But that's how it comes off in the show. It comes off in the show that maybe Kenobi didn't know Vader was Anakin. Like, it's confusing. So at best, the kindest reading is that somehow Vader has just been chilling and very on the DL for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, nobody even knows he's really out there. Everyone apparently knows about Inquisitors. Everybody knows about everything now. And then it could, like, well, how out of the loop is Kenobi? Like, I guess, but the idea, and so there was an interview, this came up. Fans were like, how would Kenobi not know all this?
Yeah.
And they asked the writer about it, and he's like, well, it was a good question. I had that question when I was writing, and I went to Pablo Hidalgo to ask him, what does Kenobi know? And Hidalgo, like, signed off on all this. And it's like, well, there's your problem. Like, I mean, this guy is the keeper of the canon, and he doesn't know the canon, and he never has known the canon. Like, I mean, I'm saying this as an old-time Star Wars fan. Like I said, I remember, I've probably had one-on-one conversations with Hidalgo. It's astonishing to me that he has the position he has. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but it's like, there are 8 million nerds on the internet who know Star Wars inside and out better than him. You know, like, so that he's the guy directors and writers are going to explains a lot. You know,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, why? Yeah, why you wouldn't go to Dave Filoni? I don't know. And if you've watched Dave Filoni saying anything about Star Wars ever,
Yeah,
I mean, it makes even the worst scenes in the prequels
seem good.
like good and believable, and
Yeah.
he ties it in, and it's, you know.
And I will say this, like, I'm not a huge fan of Filoni and his work, but he's
Really?
passionate about Star Wars and he knows it. You know, so
What don't you like about it?
I don't I I don't I you know what? A lot of his material to me seems like a mix of. Now this is okay, there's two parts here. One is like an aesthetic thing. The other I think is a more serious grievance. The aesthetic thing is I think he throws a lot of stuff in Star Wars that to me seems very weird and out there and doesn't seem to fit with my thing about the series. Now that's a subjective thing. My conception of Star Wars stuff that he comes up with doesn't quite fit to me. But like it's jarring. It just seems like
give me one or two for examples, because I'm kind of curious.
like the weird Sith Witch ceremony that put Maul's legs back on.
Oh, you know, really? Like, okay.
Yeah. Which is, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying, to me, like when I think my conception of Star Wars, it seems like a different series. It seems like a totally different thing. Like that's not my conception of what the Star Wars universe is like.
That like, that particular scene, or the entire idea of like the Dark Sisters?
Both.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It seems very like, now I'm watching a weird fantasy film, which I guess Star Wars movies are fantasy films, but to me, Star Wars, again, I'm programmed by old trilogy, and I was old enough to have seen them in the theaters. Like, to me, the Star Wars universe is like Blade Runner with a few wizards walking around. Like it's dirty and sooty, and there's scary engines and railing or walkways without railings. And it's this ugly machine universe with frontiers, and it's gunslingers and totalitarians. But here and there are weird space wizards, like space samurai wizards. You know, like that's to me is Star Wars.
Yeah.
So when you really start leveraging like all the weird mystical stuff, and you start doing Sith witches and weird like giant like force, you know, animal thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's just like it's, and like the interstellar space whales that you saw in Rebels and stuff like that. It's like, okay, this just isn't my idea of it. I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not what I'm looking for in a Star Wars.
Okay.
Now that's like, I'm not gonna damn him for that. It's just like,
sure. I have a lot to say about that, but I don't want to derail you.
I would love to hear it, because I'm open. I know a lot of people love it, and that's like, I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just not what I, you know.
Right.
What I do have a problem with, and I think he's one of the worst offenders, a lot of this intermovie material, the comics a little bit too, but especially the shows, to me it's Star Wars Mad Libs. It's like you're taking stuff in the movies and remixing them and rearranging them in a funny way for like winks and nods to the audience. And like something that like a character did once in a movie, that's like their thing. They do it all the time. And like some weird little saying, it's like gets recycled all over the place. And there's like a weird scenario. And the movies are even, I think, now getting a little guilty of it. Like that last the Rise of Skywalker, like this idea of like secret parents is a thing now in Star Wars. And the bad guy being the bad guy, but then at the last second being the good guy. Like that's now a Star Wars thing. To me, like that's not what Star Wars should be about.
Or like a character wears a cape in one scene and then is shown later to have like a closet full of capes.
Right. Yes, exactly. Like it's right. It's like, this to me is Star Wars Mad Libs. And that I will criticize. That's hacky, shitty writing, as far as I'm concerned. Like you can't defend that. Like, and like, or like even in, like I hated it even in Mandalorian, where like Luke is walking along with Grogu and like quoting Yoda, Like I had a master who said to me, and just reading lines from him, and it's like, can we get some new content, please? Like, I mean, why? Like, it, and it's that's why I get frustrated with a lot of this TV stuff, because I feel like it's one or the other. It's either let's just crib the movies as much as we can, or let's go off in weird directions. It's like, I'm sitting there, the kind of fan I am. It's like, what is happening? Like, what are we doing, guys? Like,
So
why?
I don't think this is what you're saying, but I want to say it as a point of clarification and maybe
Sure.
a bit of a foil,
Okay.
because this is a problem that I have with a lot of the Star Wars fandom.
Okay.
Because everything that you're describing, I see it. But are you wanting like just the same thing? Like you had an experience as a
No.
kid, and then you just want everybody to stay in that lane. Because
No,
for
because I
me,
could rewatch. I can always rewatch the original trilogy.
right?
Like,
Because for
like
me,
that's
like the Dathomir and all the Force witches and stuff
yeah.
like that. I love the concept that there is this universe where there is this power, and that one group of people has figured out how to use it through kind of a Buddhist
Mm-hmm.
ninja monk training mentality.
Yes.
But the power, it's obvious that they don't really understand it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even within that group, they've kind of fractioned off, and there's different sects. Even within the light side, there's different sects of people who
Right.
are like, well, I believe it's like this, and you have the idea of the gray Jedi, um, and stuff like
Well,
that.
Ahsoka sort of is representing that now. Like, I don't know what
Sure,
she is. Like
yeah,
she's not a
right.
Jedi, so like she's some other. Yeah.
She is very much like I'm gonna get lambasted online for forgetting his name, but I'm terrible at names. Obi-Wan's trainer, uh, who Darth Maul kills.
Qui-Gon?
Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is very obviously a gray Jedi, right? And then you have the
Yeah.
Sith, and you have this entire ideology that's kind of like one sect of religion. It's kind of like this is you want to call it Buddhism or whatever. It is some sort of amalgamation of some sort of Eastern philosophy. But I like the idea of like they don't really get it.
Yeah.
They kind of get it and they know how to use it, but it's kind of like, it's the difference between a physicist explaining what fire actually is as like some sort of representation of plasma versus a welder who's like, well, I know what happens when I click the spark and turn the thing on, and I'm very skilled at using this fire to do
Yeah.
specific things. It makes sense to me that there would be space whales and force witches and other things in that world, in this universe of infinite numbers of planets, where each planet is a single city full of one culture that does a one thing, and they like that there would be a planet that's like, yeah, we're just going to get into like Satanism, and we're going to basically like tap into the occult
Right.
side of the Force. So I like that because it's this expansive view of like what would really happen. Imagine just Earth, because that's basically what the Star Wars universe is. It's about the same number of communities and cultures as Earth has.
Right.
It's just in space, right?
It's just taking one little element and like let's make a whole planet.
Yeah. So imagine what what the Chinese would do with that kind of magic, and what the French would do with that kind of magic, and what the Scottish would do with that kind of magic, and what the Californians would do with that kind of magic, and what the Canadians would do with that kind of magic.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like if there was this ability, this thing that you could do, I could totally see tribes in Africa using it completely differently than Native American tribes, than ancient cultures in in Egypt or in Greece or whatever, and they all come up with. And so for me, I love all of that stuff because of the expansive nature of it. And so I guess I know you're not saying I just want the same story, I don't want anything to change, but I'm kind of curious about where your outer limit is for that.
Yeah, so I have two thoughts. First of all, no, it doesn't all have to be the same. And like Exhibit A would be, like I said, my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time is The Last Jedi. which
Mhm.
it seemed like a lot of fans reviled because it was not their Star Wars, and I thought it was exactly the right direction to start going in. Like, you got to start, because I don't see any value in, like, Force Awakens. My only real complaint about Force Awakens was that it was very familiar. Like, it did feel kind of remakey of original trilogy stuff. And while it was nice after the mess of the prequels to get some nice Star Wars comfort food, a big budget Star Wars movie that hits all the right notes and plays Freebird, show me like old Star Wars. They did it. And I was like, great, we can still make a Star Wars movie without George Lucas. Now cut a new path. And that's where it gets a little subjective about like what's the right direction to go. I liked Rian Johnson's direction. Like, I thought that was a good way to do it. Let's start evolving these characters. Let's start evolving the concept. Let's look at implications. What have we seen so far? So therefore, let's start. So thereforeing, like what we've established with the canon so far. I think with what you're talking about, I'm totally with you. Everything you said, I was like, no, 100%, I agree. I think it's just like, perhaps it's like a question of quantity rather than quality. Like, I feel like they go, like, for example, in Rebels, the weird time hopping.
That was the
world
it's like between worlds.
Whatever that, like, and people, I know people on the internet will disagree because the internet's a big place, but to me, not Star Wars. Like,
also,
travel is not a Star Wars thing. Like,
it also becomes extremely problematic. Like, there's stuff like that where it's like, well, that just breaks the entire story. Like, it's kind of like the time turner in Harry Potter. It's like, as soon as you introduce an ability to go back and change anything you want and interfere with anything you want at any point in time and in any location.
Yes.
All kinds of things don't make sense. Because Dumbledore comes in and is like, we can never save somebody from death, Harry, except Buckbeak, but not your parents, because that would
not your parents. Right.
But Buckbeak is fine, but not your parents.
Right.
I know we've got the time turner, and somehow I'm able to do the math in my head on the fly as I'm walking away and tell Hermione to do 33 and a half turns to get to the exact moment in time, but not your parents. Yeah, the world between worlds. That is a story-breaking introduction.
Exactly. And to me, that's like what I would say. It's like, it's not even like the idea of like, there should be different, basically, Force religions, like, and on both sides, a Sith kind, a kind of a middle kind, like a light side. There should be all.
Well, and in the books there are.
Sure. I just think sometimes it's like, to me, there's a difference between, for example, like, to me, what would be Star Warsy would be like a weird kind of fanatical sect. What's not Star Warsy, and what I felt like we saw, were like a coven of witches. Like, and that's just, again, my conception. That's not how I imagine the Star Wars universe being, with witches. I imagine it being, more like, I could imagine a cult, not like, I don't know.
But if the Jedi are basically ninja wizards.
They are kind of, samurai wizards. Yeah, right.
And so if you've got the wizard side of things, all we're really doing with the Dark Sisters is saying, let's say that there's no patriarchy on this world. Let's say that this world is run by women. And it turns into witches. And I'm not calling you sexist. I'm not. But I do find it interesting. That every time in history that men wield magic, people are like, sorcerers and wizards. Awesome. And then every time women wield it, we're like, burn them! Yeah, they're a witch! Burn them!
Boo! Yeah, no, it's not it. Guys, Beaver's Dam 1997, all women cast. Yeah. Like, no, it's not that. It's just, I don't, like I said, it's an extremity thing.
Is it the occult? Is it the occult side of it?
No, I don't, like, I'm not. I think it's like, how far out there are you going with this? And is it, again, like, I think of Star Wars with the battle.
I'm not saying that you have a problem with the occult. I'm saying stylistically, is it the occult side of it that was like stylistically too far? Because like when a Jedi does something, he puts his hand out there and
Right.
like you see kind of like a movement or whatever. When they're doing it, they're literally chanting and dancing in a circle. It is very occult.
I think how would I articulate this? I think in the original trilogy, or actually just the movies in general, the magic of the Force, it's a very subtle sort of mana magic, it's more an intuition magic. Yes, there is some overt like telekinesis stuff and things like that, but generally it's like it's not Harry Potter. It's not, with the exception of the Emperor and his lightning bolts, it's not like weird spells. And like one thing I hated about, like, for example, as a video game guy, the Force Unleashed games is like you have like characters pulling Star Destroyers down with the Force. Like it's so like, like to me, again, my conception of Star Wars is the Force is more of a subtle experiential thing generally, and it's small things. It's being able to duel with a droid, like a remote, like while you're blindfolded. It's getting an anticipation of like, no, something's wrong here. It's a soft, subtle kind of magic. So then once you get into
a spidey sense, if you will.
Yes. So when you get into a room where there's green clouds of magic and chant, and it's like, this is like a fantasy movie. This is a wizard movie now. Like, and like it's just not, again, like when I think of Star Wars, I think the summary I'm going to go with for now until I decide I don't like it. Blade Runner universe with a couple weird magic samurai walking around. Like, so that, and in terms of the proportions of that, the scale, it's way heavy on like dirty machines and dangerous walkways with a tiny little bit of this weird magic stuff sprinkled throughout. Like a little, like, you don't need the little thing, Luke, just take it off and you'll be able to make the shot if you trust yourself. That's the magic of the Force. When you start doing all this like giant Force animals and space whales and witches with like weird magics, like now you're making this world extremely like a kind of a weird magic reality that, to me, like I don't think that balance is as interesting. What to me is interesting about the Force is like it's a normal kind of gritty reality where every once in a while the Force like gets the die to fall in just the right way. Like it's Obi, and I hate to keep going back to the original trilogy, but this is what programmed me on Star Wars. It's Kenobi doing a mind trick on somebody, or on the Death Star, like doing this and making them think they heard something over to the left. It's like, it's little stuff. It's not like I'm going to tear the walkway up and throw them all down the cavern. That's not how the Force works. Like it's a subtler, again, like it's a mana religion. It's a weird, like, rocks and trees and everything have an energy that we're all connected to, where there's no individual identity, man. Like it's more that kind of magic. It's not like here's a spell book to make your head explode. Like that's not to me Star Wars. I want to see, first of all, Squatch, right off the bat, you are allowed to talk. You are not allowed to heckle and harangue and troll. That's the only thing that I would appreciate. But okay, remember watching Luke have his arm replaced? Yes. Let's see here. Without the aid of the Night Sisters, use the magic to restore Maul's mental state and make better legs than what he had. Understood? Okay. Yes, that's fair. That's fair. It wasn't the Night Sister magic was not so much about replacing him physically as it was fixing his weird PTSD from being chopped in half and falling to his death.
Because the Night Sisters, I'd have to go back, but they made like the spider legs, right?
Or did he have the spider leg? I don't remember.
I think he built the spider legs himself. And the explanation that we've got is he's just so angry that he's able to tap into...
That he's able
to be really, that's how he survived.
That's
getting
what
cut in half was his anger was so great.
Vader. And again, okay, Star Wars Mad Libs. This is what I'm talking about. Like, so we have Vader, and then Lucas does this himself with Grievous, and then we get like now Maul, like this idea of like machine men, like now that's become a Star Wars thing. And to me, that's not what Star Wars is really about. But now it's about machine men, secret parents, and last second redemption. You know,
Grievous is one of the most underrated characters.
He is, and I think he could have been again, like, and I think we share this love, the Tartakovsky.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, there's nothing better than that.
There's
like,
that one episode where like the like 6 Jedi are literally just cowering in a cave, and it is like straight up they're being hunted by like a horror monster.
Yes.
And it's Grievous, and he's crawling on the ceiling like a spider, and he's dropping out of shadows.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of what I missed. I did like Obi-Wan the way that he killed Grievous, but also it was like we missed Grievous a little bit, because if it was in this dark cave with a series of tunnels, it could have been terrifying. Instead, it was like literally out in the open on this like 20-story thing, and they're chasing each other on lizards with unicycles.
And like it basically ends in a fist fight. Like it's kind of like, all right.
But if you go back to Tartakovsky, the way Mace Windu fights him and gives him his like his grasp, where Mace Windu is using dark force powers and like crushes his lungs. Like, could you imagine? I mean, Mace Windu is also one of the characters that in the movies I'm like, he is not cool, but in the cartoons, you really get to know who he is, and he is he's in canon the best swordsman out of anyone that has ever walked the face of the earth.
And that's another good example of like, and this is the prequels are rife with examples of this, like a lot of telling and not showing. Like you have Anakin say in the movies like something about like that Obi-Wan is as wise as Master Yoda and as like formidable a warrior as Master Windu. And like it's like, well, I guess we just take like, he killed Jango.
Yeah.
But then like, we're gonna take that for granted. I'm curious, like I guess maybe he could have killed Palpatine, but I guess some people wonder if Palpatine threw it to try and give Anakin an opportunity to jump in.
Sure. But I mean he was definitely betrayed by Anakin. But
no, but I mean like did Palpatine
if Palpatine
intentionally
orchestrated that,
yeah. But yes, so could Windu have killed Palpatine? I don't know.
I think so. I do. I mean, Palpatine did use some stuff that most people don't know about, like Force Scream is like a thing. Like when he jumped and yelled, it's like he does this little spin and yells. Yeah. It's actually it's a mentally disorienting attack. His like weird yell.
Yeah.
And like it bothers me that you have to dig really deep into weird stuff that isn't in the movie to even know that. Like there was no setup for it. There was no explanation.
That's the prequels. That's the prequels. None of it makes sense. And that's kind of the thing. Like to me, like Clone Wars is like appendixes. Appendices. Like it's like trying to make it like, like how do we explain this? And how do we make this? I'm still waiting on like, I'm sure eventually there'll be some series explaining. We're watching so much of Kenobi sitting like a sad sack and like, well, he's lost his faith. He's not sure what to do. And he's having to hustle. Meanwhile, I guess Yoda is like on a lawn chair in Dagobah or a little floaty, like just kind of chilling. Like what is like,
so have you read any of the books, or do you have any interest in reading any of the books?
No, I've heard the Darth Vader comic is pretty good.
It is.
I haven't read it though.
There's the Another Point of View, or From Another Point of View, or something. I can't remember what the title is, but there's 2 of them that came out.
Probably a certain point of view.
Certain point of view.
Yeah, probably. If it's quoting the
the first one is very good. The second one has some okay moments, but it's basically like these little vignette stories, these little short stories, and one of them is literally Yoda going through his harvest season, and it was like he has to move his house on Dagobah every 6 months because like the planet changes from season to season so much that like it floods on one side and then it dries out on the other side. Okay. And so he's planting. So he is very literally
he's busy
planting beans, but planting and harvesting beans. It is that entire story, and that's what's going on in the interesting. But the interesting thing about it is because Qui-Gon Jinn figured out how to remain an individual within the Force after he died. He came back and he taught that to Yoda, who then, taught it to started teaching it to everybody else.
Well, which I'm waiting for that, if that's going to pay off in the Kenobi series. Like that,
it has to. There's no way that they're not going to do that.
I mean, I would think because that was literally another example. You totally reminded me of that. Like Revenge of the Sith, and like literally the last 5 minutes, it's like, oh, by the way, like I'll teach you how to talk to your old master Kenobi. Like, can you imagine if you only watch these movies? You're like, what? Like, right. I mean, just out of nowhere, you're just going to drop that and right. and just walk away from it. Just walk away. Like, it didn't happen, I mean.
Whereas in the cartoons,
of course,
that is a process.
Right.
It's why the cartoons are better. It's why the cartoons are better.
Now, and again, Filoni, I can tell he's passionate about Star Wars, and he owes his whole career to Lucas, and I understand why he would adore Lucas and everything Lucas says and does. But clearly what he did when it's like, how are we going to write all these Clone Wars episodes? Well, let's just queue up the prequel trilogy and write down all the questions and holes and gaps and problems. And like, there's 6 episodes right there to explain that. Well, there's 14 episodes to talk about that. Like, we can talk, to make it all make sense. Like, there's lots of opportunities with Clone Wars, no doubt, to like, if the mission is.
And you look at that as a flaw. I look at that as
I do.
Just excellent. I mean, it's a flaw in the movies, which is why I like the cartoons.
It's a flaw in the movies, and I've always been very open about the fact that I weigh and bias toward the films over everything else.
Right, but I'm the type of guy I would prefer to listen to a 60-hour audiobook than watch a 3-hour movie on the same story.
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean? I would rather watch 7 seasons of something than watch a 90-minute thing on the same thing, because I want to immerse myself in that world. And so if they don't hit it in the movie, I kind of go, well, movies are just it's kind of like the difference between reading a 50,000 word treatise on a subject and then watching a 7-minute segment on the nightly news on it.
Yeah.
You just can't do it as well.
No. Yeah. And again, it's probably just, I would imagine it's attributable to a slight difference in our introduction to Star Wars, where for most of my life, there weren't shows. Yeah. So like, it's easy for me to be kind of dismissive of the shows.
Sure.
I think like, I can imagine, especially people even younger than us, like if you're 25, Star Wars is absolutely a TV property, right. With some movies.
Yeah.
Where to me, like Star Wars is absolutely a theater experience, and now there's all this supplemental stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
of course, I have a theater, like I have like a 10-foot wide screen and a projector with surround sound in my house, and so I watch TV differently than a lot of people watch TV.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I have a pretty nice TV setup in my living room. But,
yeah.
There's a 48-hour art check where they discussed Solo. Were you present for that?
Probably. I don't think I missed an episode of 48-hour art check.
Yeah,
I think I was probably. I don't remember what I said though. I do remember I liked that movie. It was fine. It was
I know.
He didn't the main actor didn't do the thing where he's like, I'm gonna try to be Harrison Ford.
Yes, and it was better for it.
Yeah.
I think.
But that was one of those things when you're talking about Star Wars Mad Libs. That was one of those things where it was a lot of hey, remember that gun that he had?
Yeah.
We all just
know how he got it?
You want to know how he got it? This guy gave it to him.
I don't care. Yeah, like it so doesn't matter, you know, and like, but that, yeah, and it also to me shows like the Star Wars, maybe it's the fans, maybe they're serving a fan that I don't understand, but this preoccupation with minutia, like the idea to even write in where he got his blaster, that would never occur to me writing that script. You know, like, why is that at all important? And like, if I was going to write, like, it's Han Solo, who cares? Like, I mean, he probably has lots of guns. Like, he probably, I wouldn't be surprised if the gun he has in A New Hope he picked up 6 hours before. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it's like if I was going to write a prequel movie for Fistful of Dollars with, like, you know, the man with no name 10 years prior, I wouldn't feel obligated, like, where does he get his serape?
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter. It does, like, where he gets his hat, it doesn't matter. Like, it matters how he became the person he is. And Solo did sort of do that, but then it spent a lot of time with the stupid stuff. Like,
well, hey, do you know how he got his last name?
Right.
You know how he got his last name? Some guy just gave it to him.
So just gave it to him.
And that is the answer in every single one of those things. It's like,
right.
hey, did you know how he got this thing? Some guy just gave it to him. Literally everything. Like,
I'm glad we found that out. That was a satisfying answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a scoundrel and a liar and a swindler, and some guy tells him, okay, so you're by yourself, so your last name is Solo, and he keeps that for the next 400 years or whatever it was. Like, I mean, like, come on. Anyway,
and gives it to his son, his wife, and well, not his wife, but gives it to his future son. Like, I mean, what is your attachment to the, like, it doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. Like, and, you know, Chase makes some lore is best left to the viewer's imagination. 100%. Some lore is not even worth taking time with. Like, you know, you've got, especially with a movie, you got 2 hours, guys. Like, we're going to burn time on this? Like, what? And again, if you're going to answer a question that hypothetically no one is asking, I don't remember anyone wondering, like, what is the deal with Han Solo's name anyway? Like, nobody was asking that. But if you're going to take the time to answer it, it better be really interesting, because it doesn't seem like it matters. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, half the stuff in that movie didn't matter. I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay. I do remember, and I haven't watched it in a long time, I remember feeling like it was disposable, though.
Yeah.
Like, it was absolutely, like, you certainly didn't have to watch it.
Well, and that's my problem with almost all movies nowadays. Like, I'll go see, I can't think of a Marvel movie that I've rewatched. You know what I mean? I've rewatched a lot of movies, but like these giant blockbuster events, you know, you like go to them and you're like, oh, this is really exciting, and you have a great time, and then you're like, I never need to see that again.
Never again. It's the latest issue of a comic series you like. You know, like it's the latest X-Men. Like, you read it.
Even that, though, I'll go back and read.
You might reread that. Comics. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just another episode of X-Files or something. Like, it's just a thing where it's like, okay, you know, it was good, but like, yeah, I'll never watch it again. And yeah, the Marvel movies, I can only think of a couple I've bothered to see more than once. And I think it was like Winter Soldier, which is, I think, still maybe my favorite of the MCU movies. The original Iron Man. I thought the original Iron Man was sort of great. Like, it's kind of perfect. But all the rest, it's like, it's just because I have to admit, I've seen probably far too many MCU movies just to be current on MCU, you know, which is not a great reason. You know, right. I'm starting to feel very conflicted about it. But
like, you have to see it, or
yeah, like, you know, well, an Avengers, like a next big Avengers is going to come along. So if I'm going to be lost if I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I watched some of the Marvel shows, though. I found, it looks like we have a guest that just popped in. I'm glad I looked down. I found that, at least so far, the Marvel series are kind of disposable in the sense of, like, they're being, and I get it, I think they're being very careful to do them in a way where if you don't watch them, you're not going to be totally lost in the next movie. Like I especially like, for example, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That show starts with
so boring.
I liked a lot of parts of it. But
I like parts of it, but they're stretching a 90-minute story.
They are. And when you think about it, like it starts, when you think about where that movie's starting from, like, so the last Avengers movie, Sam is apparently the heir apparent of Captain America, and Bucky is emo. And when you skip to okay, now we've watched this whole series, where are we at? Sam is heir apparent Captain America, and Bucky is emo. And I can't help but think that's by design. So when you go and see Avengers number 14 or whatever, and like these two characters walk in and you didn't watch the series, you're not really lost. Like you kind of know, like, oh yeah, that's how I remember them.
Well, that's just mainstream comics where you have to you've got to get the toys back in the box.
Yeah. Don't die. Please don't die. Mr. Campbell, how's it going, man?
Hi, I'm hoping Corey's not dying. It's like on cue, I showed up.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've mentioned my Dark Force powers, but
yeah, you're doing the
when I appear in a room, it like suddenly Corey's lungs start acting weird. It's a strange thing.
I felt like somebody was choking me. It was weird.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Yeah. Actually, I should do that. Just wait. Hold on.
If you can time it right, you're doing it. You're doing it right now.
Oh, sorry. Let me just one more. Oh, there we go. Okay.
You're a real
Corey. I'm getting a laugh at my friend's expense.
You're being a real baker's wife right now.
Well,
That's true.
As you should.
Gotta stop with the baker's wife attitudes. How's it going, guys? Sorry for joining so late. I feel
good.
bad.
No, I guess you couldn't resist hearing any Star Wars and Marvel talk any longer.
I was in the chats and was gonna just do the chats, and then I was like, well, I'm coloring comics and they are talking geeky stuff, so I gotta join. But yeah, how long have you been going like this?
We're at an hour 45.
Wow, so this is probably right before
I was telling everybody, I was telling Jim, I'm not gonna talk about Kenobi on the live stream. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not. And
Corey will get you there though, because I mean, Corey knows his Star Wars.
I got myself there. I started bringing it up, and things started bubbling out in spite of myself, and then that got him going, and now it's been all about Star Wars.
I like it. I'm kind of glad I missed some of it because I am 2 episodes in on Kenobi, so.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I don't think there were any major spoilers.
Okay.
There were light spoilers, but nothing major.
I'll say from the 2 I've seen, I have no real complaints. Maybe I'm just crazy. It's weird. I'm just like, I think I'm less picky about stuff like that. And I was also gonna say I would want to agree about like what you were saying about the idea of like we don't need to see where they get their thing. Problem is, I also want my favorite Indiana Jones film is Last Crusade, and it literally starts with, and that's how he got his hat. And
got his hat.
Much like Corey's been saying, it was like, how did he get his hat? Oh, this guy, he gave it to him.
He gave it to him. But you know what? I think that's probably a good example of like the best possible version of that.
Yeah.
You can tell he kind of idolized that because that guy was dressed exactly like Indiana Jones, leather jacket, khaki pants, hat, and like you can tell that in spite of himself, he kind of envied that. Like there was something where he's like, "Oh, that guy's pretty cool," and then when he gave him the hat, like it's sort of like, all right, like it is a thing. It's like, do we care how Indiana Jones got his hat? I don't, but like I don't care where he got his whip. I don't care where he got his jacket.
Yeah.
Like this is not an interesting story thing. But if you're gonna do it, but see, they did the work. There's the whole first 20 minutes, or 15 or whatever it was, where like in Solo, it was like, oh, you're gonna need a gun for this, and he throws him his blaster. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody, it's the gun.
It's the gun. Yeah. I used to have, this is a fun little side story. That gun was actually at my house for a good week. when I
That's
was a
right.
kid.
Why was that? I remember this.
So my dad was he was the manager for a brief time. Like after we had moved back here, the whole graphic design industry had changed and stuff. So my dad had to just take whatever job he could get, and he got a job as a manager at a hobby shop. And so this guy came into the hobby shop, who, like a lot of guys locally who work for ILM and Lucasfilm, would go to that hobby shop, particularly because this is like back before CGI. So like they'd buy like stock model kits that are on sale that they could use for like film props, because they're like, oh, we're gonna like butcher this thing and
They're
make
kit
it
bashing everything.
Yeah. And this guy like came in and was talking to my dad about Star Wars. And my dad mentioned we're all Star Wars fans as kids, and he was like, well, do you guys want to like have the original blaster for like a week?
Wow.
And he lent it to my dad, and like we have all these pictures from like our scrapbook of like us running around playing with Han Solo's actual blaster, which is insane to think now, because Star Wars is so huge now. It's like you know.
Oh, and I'm just trying to imagine what that would go for at auction or something.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And somewhere some collector has that, and it was literally played with in a backyard by a bunch of kids.
Amazing.
We were just like,
I would probably pay just for the chance to hold the original trilogy Luke Skywalker lightsaber. Like just to hold it, I would probably pay. Like if they were selling things, it's like you can hold this lightsaber for 5 minutes. I'd be like, how much? Like I want to do that.
It was cool. It was a cool experience, and I remember it being weird because we didn't imagine that it would be heavy. Like it's
all metal, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, because the thing was made like using like parts from like a Ruger and like old guns, and then like a scope from like a rifle and like all these different,
like all those original trilogy weapons, I think were basically converted real firearms that they just added stuff to. And, you can even see, I remember there's some of them they fired blanks. I don't know if the Solo pistol did, but like there's a scene, if you look at, I think they might have pulled it out of the special editions, they edited it, but there were, I don't remember if it was Leia shooting a stormtrooper blaster or Lando in the second movie shooting it, where the shell case, you see shells being ejected. So you can tell like it had blanks in it, like to, do like a, to give a little bit of kick. But I feel like in the specialized editions, they might have cleaned those out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do remember in one of those two, and I don't remember if it's Leia firing in the first movie when they're in the Death Star or Lando, but one of them you see shell casings.
Nice. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. It was a cool experience. But yeah, I liked Solo, and I liked I don't know, I haven't really like heavily disliked any of the new films, which is weird. So
I've said as many a time, the only one I disliked was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I at least lukewarm liked pretty much all the new ones.
Yeah.
Like starting with was Solo was before Rogue One, right?
I can't remember. I feel like Rogue One might have come out before Solo, but maybe
I do know I liked Rogue One better than Solo.
Yeah, I think Solo is fun. It's not the best. Yeah. I think that I think because I was expecting it to be so terrible, I enjoyed it.
Well, it had such a troubled production. Like it just, you couldn't help hear the news of like how badly it was going and thought like this is going to be a mess.
Yeah,
and it was fine. It was fine. Like it wasn't great, but it was, it was okay.
And Rogue One was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Rogue One. Another one though that like arguably is sort of, I don't know. It's like they made a whole movie about Han Solo's blaster. Like how did the plans get to the rebels? Like let's just talk about that for 2 hours. But it was again maybe like Indiana Jones' hat, pretty well executed. Like like it was a good. I feel like though that was another one that I guess had a lot of trouble in production, and there's a lot of fighting with the director or whatever. I feel like there was something about the first half of that movie that looks and feels better than the second half. The second half was still fun. It had a lot of neat special effects and it looked good. But like that first half, when it opens with like the Imperial coming to see, I'm blanking on the main character's name now. Her family, like the dad, the designer of the Death Star, he's gone into basically hiding. He's retreated. He's out like a farmer someplace. That is shot so beautifully and so like not like a Star Wars. Like it looks more almost like a weird indie movie, you know, like it's and like it. I remember like from the first frames of that movie, I was like, this looks great. Like this is I think the best looking Star Wars movie. And it shifts into something that looks kind of like every other Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I'm wondering like if that was from changing horses, you know, like different, like, oh no, we're going to reshoot this, we're going to redo this, and they got somebody else doing things. But
yeah, it's always hard on like giant productions like that, imagining any creative vision like fully seeing its way through. Like it is kind of impressive when somebody can work on a big property like that and you still kind of see their take on it, you know, like, you know, like Empire Strikes Back is a good example of that, where it's like you're working on something that's iconic and huge and you have your own stamp on it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And still, I don't know. It's the last uncontroversial thing you can say about Star Wars is like Empire Strikes Back is the best of those movies. Like, even if someone disagrees, they're not going to be like, you're crazy. You know, like, no, there's a strong case to be made.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think as a little kid, my favorite was probably Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
You know? But as an adult, yeah, it's definitely Empire. Empire is the one that's always stayed with me.
Yes.
But I would say, as a kid, just Luke wearing all black and coming in and being all badass was like, I think, probably the reason that, like, as a kid, I was just all about Return.
I remember, and now, like, you know, these kids today, they're spoiled.
These kids today, guys, hot take on kids today.
They'll never know how mind-meltingly awesome it was to see Return of the Jedi and to see Luke go ham on Jabba's sail barge and just be like deflecting blasters, which you'd never seen before, and like just taking on a whole ship. Like people are just lining up to go after him. He's just pew, 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 just chopping people off the ship. Like, I mean, it was the coolest. Like, I remember as a kid, like when we had it on VHS, I would watch that scene over and over. It was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like,
yeah.
You'd never seen it. You'd never seen a Hong Kong Kung Fu movie. You'd never seen 8,000 episodes of Clone Wars. You'd never seen Darth Maul. Like any of that, like real, like, whoa, like everything you'd seen before was like basically like a kendo sword match, you know, and now like you're seeing like a Jedi take on a whole ship of people. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that's one thing about the new episodes is kids are now they have like the most epic lightsaber battles imaginable.
Yeah.
You know, whereas we had a very limited palette of like what lightsaber battles we would see, you know,
and what it would look like. Yeah. Well, and that, you know, when you go back to that A New Hope Kenobi Vader duel, like that's like the first lightsaber duel we ever saw in recorded film history. It's pretty conservative. Yeah, it's very, it's an old man and a guy who can't see, you know, like, you know, and it's, you know, it's very minimal. Like it's so.
Have you ever, this is how nerdy I was as a kid, but have you ever made a movie where you have like a sword fight in it?
No, unfortunately. I bet not for lack of, we never had a camera, like a video recorder of any kind, or like friends did, and I was always envious, like, oh, I'd be making so many movies in my backyard. But.
Yeah, my friends and I, we made so many movies. I had a little VHS camera. Well, my family did.
Mm-hmm.
and my neighbor had 2 VCRs that were synced up with a jog shuttle, and so like you could actually do like tape to tape editing and stuff. And so like we would shoot movies, and whenever we were just like, hey, let's just ad lib this fight scene, it looked exactly like Darth Vader fighting Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
Every time. You're just kind of like, you're kind of just, you think, because you watch these movies, you think that you're going to be able to be like, yeah, doing all these big movements
So
and
crazy. Yeah.
whatever. And then you really just end up kind of like sort of waving back and forth a little bit.
Plus, you're trying not to get hit. So, like,
Right,
it's
yeah,
very,
that's why you're
yeah,
kind of,
yeah, right.
You're kind of, and your eyes are always half, and you just kind of,
yeah, it's not as dramatic.
I remember at one point in time, one of my buddies took some fencing classes, and so he showed up in my backyard, and he's like, dude, I have like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, sweet. We didn't put any of it on except for the face mask. And so we got the face mask on, and then we had 2 fencing foils. And like,
Corey, are you telling us the story of your first serious injury?
I'm telling you the story of when I almost emasculated my friend.
Oh no!
Because he knew how to deflect and everything. I didn't, so I was just full on like attack. And I went to stab him in the chest, and it's a fencing foil, right? So it's just like it's a dull tip,
right?
You know, and it bends and stuff. He parries it. It hits him right in the shaft of the penis. He parried it down away from his chest, and it like full on like bent and everything, and he dropped like, and I was like, oh, so this is why they wear all the stuff.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There are places other to get hit, other than your eye to get hit.
maybe it would have been better if you just took that one in the chest.
Yeah.
But anyway, so once we got some training, our movies got a lot better. But I just feel like, why was it so boring? Like, was there nobody on set to be like, hey guys, let's take like 10 minutes and let's plan out like 3 sword strikes.
Choreograph. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Well, or I still buy the argument. Oh, go ahead.
Let's do some trial and error of like what looks cool on camera. You know, like what kind of swing would look cool, you know? Like,
I still buy the argument that it was more of like a psychological battle, like where it's like 2 old swordsmen, like you are kind of like, I still get that vibe from it.
I think it seems like they're 2 people who are really afraid of each other.
Yeah.
And like being very cautious, you know, like, so it's like, okay, I mean, I can buy that. Sure. You know, like it doesn't really matter. It's unlike, like I saw, I'm sure.
Well, they're going to make like 4 movies about it, actually.
Yeah, right.
What movie is that where they do that though? Where they have the psychological sword battle? Is that Hero or Nameless?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. There is, I think it's Nameless. Phenomenal movie. He has all these different battles, and they're trying to show it's an homage to, but also actual kung fu. It's an homage to old kung fu movies, but it was made during kind of the resurgence of the Chinese. I think they call it 5th generation. It was everything that came after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay.
And there's this one battle where it's like Jet Li, right? He shows up, and they're in this courtyard, and there's this dude playing, I don't know what it is, a sitar or something, one of those kind of, you know, old school stringed instruments, and they stand there in the rain, and they're just standing there, and then it keeps flipping to what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
And they're playing out every possible scenario of the battle in their mind. Like, well, if I did this, he would do this. Like, it's 2 master swordsmen. And
kind of like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes kind of.
Yes, right. Yeah. But way better.
Yeah.
I was going to say Jeremy Brett is my Sherlock Holmes. Screw that Robert Downey Jr. stuff.
And then at the end, once they play out all of the various scenarios in their mind of how this would go, they both know who's going to win and what's going to happen. And there's just one move. They charge each other and it's over.
Yeah.
I got to watch that movie again. I think it's Nameless.
Yeah.
It's exactly what Josh is describing. It's a battle in the mind.
I love
what's happening between Obi-Wan and
crazy kung fu movies sometimes.
Crazy
Yeah,
Kung Fu movies are so good. So
Yeah.
But if that's what's happening, there is zero indication of that on the screen.
Yes, that's not.
true.
Yeah, that's not what they were. I think for the time, it was a fine, acceptable like sword duel. Like it was, for 77 is it was fine. But
You're very forgiving.
well, I did see. Have you seen those effects guys like on their own time like redid that scene? Have you seen that?
The corridor guys?
It's not the Corridor guys. I don't know who these guys were, but they Corridor had talked about it though. They put it on there. It's really well done. It's way over the top. Like it wouldn't fit in A New Hope. Like if you would think like, what's going on? Like this is crazy. Like, but it's they do a pretty good job. Like pretty. The only thing I don't like about it is at the end. I'll send you guys the link later if you haven't seen it. But the only thing toward the end, there's like a weird kind of. There's a pause in the battle, and they overlay like Kenobi yelling at Anakin when he's burning on the side of the lava pit, and they're like the music rises, and it's like you didn't need any of that. It's too much. You're spiking the football, but the lightsaber fight itself was fine. Like it was good. Again, wouldn't fit in a 1977 movie. It would look strange, but they did a really good job, and it was convincingly like it looks like Alec Guinness there. It looks like retro Vader. It looks cool. There's some neat moments in it that look really badass that I feel like they kind of maybe were had some influence in the Kenobi show without spoiling anything. Like maybe they looked at that and were like, oh, that's a neat idea, and they kind of went with it.
Hi, Rosie Roo.
What's that?
There's a creepy dog that's taking my place.
Oh, the dog's staring again. In fact, I'm going to call up the scene now on YouTube to share. Let's see here.
Okay, Roz will be joining us. She has some thoughts.
Oh my goodness, Roz, what do you think about
here.
Star Wars? Hi, Roz.
I'm so fat.
What are your thoughts on Star Wars? What do you think?
That's my reaction when I watch some Star Wars now.
Yeah.
Exactly that face.
Very intense, exactly.
Like kind of like, what?
Yeah.
All right.
I love it.
Yeah, so now we get to play the game. Can I get any drawing done while holding a baby?
It's a good game. I like it. That is the game that Gary plays quite often, but usually he's dressed as Harry Potter.
That's right.
In that game.
I am sharing in the chat. This is the link to the official name of it is Star Wars SC-38 Reimagined. I'm assuming that's Scene 38. Yeah, Scene 38 Reimagined. So it's for a fan thing.
Nice.
Surprisingly good.
Awesome.
I encourage people to watch it if you never have.
Sweet.
Sounds fun.
So Gary, how is your progress going on your book?
Good. I'm as I and early in the video I was talking about it. So normally I would be starting page 18 this morning. But I actually started page 18 days ago because I finished 17 early.
Nice.
And started doing 18 and then set it aside to work on Scott's variant cover. So today I will be finishing coloring his cover and get it out of my life. Just send it to him to do whatever he's going to do with it, and then switch back to page 18 today or this evening, or at absolute latest tomorrow morning. So
I love it.
Going well. What about you? Where are you at?
I'm on page 17, and then hoping to kind of knock through a ton today, because A lot of stuff's come up. I also have to get like, this is craziness, but like I didn't think about traveling abroad on like at this time. So there's all sorts of like weird stuff I have to provide for like COVID restrictions and stuff before I fly out of country, which is insane. So yeah, so I have to take care of that as well today. But pretty excited. Just a little bit behind where I wanted to be because I had to spend a weekend doing like car buying.
That's right.
Which, you know, I want to be like a thankful human being who's like, it's cool that I have a car and I'm excited about that, but I just hate the whole process
It's
and the whole, yeah.
so miserable. It's I've only bought 2 cars in my life. I honestly, I might, if I can help it, never do it again. Like,
Wait, how is that possible?
Well, because so from what I understand, if you're a member of AAA, you can go to them and say, this is the kind of car I'm looking for. This is the price, you know, like I'm willing to spend. You know, you can give them parameters and they'll go and do it. And this is something they offer to just AAA members. They'll go and do it. They're usually better at negotiating anyway, because it's like a big company. Like they're not going to suffer the bullshit of sitting in there. You know, they're not going in there and sitting for 6 hours talking to the finance guy. You know, like they're able to like kind of shortcut all this stuff and like, no, seriously, guys, like I need this. Can you do it? Okay, goodbye. And they can move on to the next thing. And they can do it faster. And because of AAA, like there's a lot of the access is a little easier to work. I've had such, even though I've gotten good deals, because I think like Josh, like I know what I need to be doing. It's just a nightmare, even if it works out for you. So like,
you're looking at a few days of work at minimum, you know?
Yes, and aggravation and it's enough for me next time this happens to join AAA and say, please do this for me. You know, and even if it's like, well, now that's $100 fee. It's like, my pleasure. Here, please, I'll tip you, whatever. Like, just because I can't, like, every time I do it, I walk out of there thinking, like, I'm going to go back and burn this place down. Like, these are the worst people. You know, they're just terrible, terrible. And then you think you're done, and then they find this whole new way to try to waste your time. It's like,
oh yeah, and to get a deal, you have to sit through that for like 6 hours with like 4 dealerships and start hedging them against each other. And it's like, if you're not willing to do that, like if you cut that 6 hours or whatever, and just go with the first dealership you sit for 6 hours with, you're getting screwed. Like every possible way where you'd save time, you're getting screwed.
And I could be wrong, but I suspect, especially after the last time, if you do know how to play it, and you do know how to get a good deal, and you do know what you can and can't ask for, they, in a very passive-aggressive way, will really slow roll you. It's like, well, like, you know, it's like hoping maybe to wait you out, or maybe just to penalize you for not giving them the commission they were hoping for. You know?
I think it's a it's a sunk cost fallacy that they're taking advantage of. And it's built into the model of car sales where it's literally, I mean, there is a bunch of legal stuff, so it's always going to be drawn out. But I really do think it's part of the tactic, because if you're 8 hours into something, now you have time invested. So if you're like 6 to 8 hours into something, when it gets to that end where they're trying to like throw in a bunch of extras and stuff like that, or you really change your APR. Yeah, it's like, and I remember the first time I ever negotiated a car, I had a friend who was a car salesperson for like a big like VW place or something, and he gave me a bunch of advice for buying a car, including don't come to my dealership. But he gave me all this advice, and one of them was like to like obviously cross-check everything at the end, and you don't sign off on any extras. And I remember cross-checking the APR, and they had thrown on a percentage point, and it was like, you know, that's 6 to 7 hours into the process, and the guy's like, well, I mean, it's just one number, like who really cares? And I'm like, no, that's $5,000.
That's a big difference.
That's a massive difference. And the guy was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's like $5,000. You're trying to charge
And
them
nothing, just what you said right there, where it's like, what? Nothing will trigger me more
Yeah.
than like being disingenuously stupid. Like, you know, to be like, I don't know what, like to even act surprised by you, like I'm calling you out on this. For you to act surprised is making me furious. Like, you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Stop
And
it.
if you didn't
I would
know, you
respect
should be
you
like,
more if
oh
you're like,
man, that's
you got me, my bad. I
Yeah.
just said, you know, like for you acting like I don't understand why you're being so difficult on this. You fully understand why I'm being difficult about this.
Yeah.
Now I'm really angry. You know, that you're
But that's the other thing. The tactics are to make you a little angry too, because it's like tilting somebody in poker, where it's like the more tilted you are, like the more likely you are to make a dumb decision.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's this weird song and dance game. I hate it. I'm pretty good at it. Like I'm pretty darn good at doing it. But it's like, it just takes so much. I'm glad it's done. You know?
Yeah.
But it is a whole thing. She's really talkative. I think she has a lot to say.
Yes, yeah.
About car dealers. She's like, yeah, I agree.
I was thinking she would probably be useful in negotiations, because I bet 5 hours in, she would start shrieking.
Yeah.
And they would be eager to get this wrapped up. Like, you know, that's an interesting ploy.
Yeah, and you just sit there and say, like, no, you don't understand. I'm staying here with this screaming child until you comply with my.
And I don't have any new diapers, so like that smell you're smelling, it's only going to get better, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just
everything about this situation is just going to go in my favor because I live with this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm immune.
I have no problem.
Very familiar. Yeah,
I don't even hear her anymore. That frequency is just it's been burned out of my hearing.
That's a strong play. That's a strong. I think that's a shark sitting down at the table. I think you'd be like, all right, let's wrap this up.
And then you bring the other kids, and you're like, and you see that 3-year-old, he loves to throw things and break stuff, and so
right.
You know?
He just wants to go and touch all these shiny cars. Just touch them.
You're like, I've made him aware that your insurance will cover any damages that happen on your lot. For my child who loves damaging cars.
Yeah, it's one of his favorite things.
I've given him my keys and a chocolate bar, so he's just going to wander around your showroom. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
We gave him cotton candy before we got here. His hands are blue and sticky. And he's now, I don't know where he is now. He's in here somewhere. So
if I can, I mean, luckily, you know, for me with the amount of commuting I do, I only have to get a new car about every decade. So it's like I'm good for another decade, I would think. Or at least 8 years.
Two in my life, and I think like you, I was late to get my first. I didn't get one until I was 24. Something like that. Like I was a city bus and walking kind of guy. So so it's
I have bought so many cars, but disposable cars.
Yeah.
So like the type of car that you buy when you're 16 and you sort of have a job.
Yeah.
I bought those types of cars for like 15 years.
Yeah. No, my sweet spot is usually like so far like a 5-year-old Honda. Like something like that, where you're kind of just out of like where the value's starting to come down, but it's not an old car. Like you still have some life to it, you know. Like that's kind of usually what I'm looking for, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I because of the amount of commuting I do, I've done the math and stuff, and it's just like I have to buy new every time. But I will say,
like, daily commute is insane. I didn't realize it was as far as it is. Like,
it's pretty crazy. Yeah. But it's worth it.
I hate to bring it up. It might make you cry, but like, it takes me like 12 minutes to get to work. Like it's hop on the freeway, exit the freeway. I'm there. Like it's really.
If I had a short commute like that, I would buy like really used cars. Weirdly enough, because it's just like, why do you need a new car? You know?
I could. Well, and that's why I would never buy a new car.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, like, to me, like 5 years is about the newest I would want, because I'm not putting a lot of miles on it.
Yeah.
From my front door to my office door is 0.5 miles.
Wow.
So if
You
I'm,
can walk.
I can walk and I do often, but if I'm like running late for class, meaning anything that isn't 15 minutes early is late for me. So if I'm like running late for class, I'll just drive, and it is like if I have to find parking and go to a second parking lot, less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not drawing left-handed because this is the only option.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So we've gotten to that point.
Hello.
Hi, can you wave? Can you wave hello? It's going to take me about 3 minutes to process, and then I'll wave
Yeah,
after
it's a boy. That's never happened before. Waving at someone through a monitor.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
There we go. The sound is coming from behind her, so she's very confused.
It's a little confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. They're over there.
I understand. The internet's confusing. I understand.
That's Gary and Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, hiya. We don't really talk yet. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
That was awesome. That was like we were talking about, martial arts films, and that was straight up. Like,
That was kind of a hi-ya.
Yeah.
About to attack.
That was a force yell for sure.
Can she karate chop? Can she?
Can you fight? Get him. Go get him.
Chase, I have a 5-year-old Honda Civic, and it's the best. I'm a Honda fanboy. I've only had 2, but it's the 2 cars I've had. I love Honda.
Honda's been really good to me. I usually stick to like Hondas, Nissans, or Toyotas. Just cars that have a really long lifespan and cheap parts if anything goes wrong. And like Honda is always the preferable of all of those because it's just like affordable. I think if I were really wealthy, I'd be driving around in like, a nice EV or something, like maybe I would get like a Tesla or something, but
yeah, my cohort at work just him and his wife just bought a Tesla 3. But it's a thing like you order, like they'll get it in October or something.
Yeah.
But he, did the test drive and everything, and like everyone I've never been in a Tesla, but everyone I hear does is like it's pretty cool, like it's really, but
it's like driving an iPad.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. I don't know. To me, they're still too expensive. Negotiating tactic. I still have concerns, like technology wise.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I'm ready to jump in, but I can tell in my lifetime I'll probably have an electric vehicle.
Yeah. I'm thinking like the next round of buying, I might get one because it's with the amount of driving I do, it would be great. But it's just like right now, obviously financially, just wasn't feasible. But the next round, they'll probably be like somewhat more in my price range because they're very close now.
If you assume 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And see, I bought mine. I think I've had it for about 5 years. So by the time I need a new one, even worst case scenario, which would probably be like 5 years from now, I don't think like that'll probably be still a little too soon. So like I'll probably do at least one more conventional gas vehicle, but maybe the next one, like then I would expect that one would probably be electric. But.
It's funny because I didn't realize this, like I hadn't thought about this, but like people's perception of like the extravagance of having a car or a new car like really changes if they're outside of California.
Yes.
Like it because it was like the first time we talked about it on air or something.
I could tell.
I had a couple people who just responded like, "Whoa, they're fancy pants."
Yeah,
like,
they're living in different kinds of cities. Like, because I was the same as you. Like, everyone in Phoenix has a car. Like, and not everyone, obviously, but like the vast majority. And especially with the sprawl of Phoenix, there's buses and light rails, but there's parts of the Phoenix area that are way far away from other parts. Like you don't want to be city busing all the way. Like you're not an hour and a half early just to get there, you know.
Phoenix is also not an area you want to be like walking around in, like, you know, in certain times of year, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't want to be sitting on a bus stop. You don't want to, and the buses aren't exactly well air conditioned. No, it's just not even really an option. Now I know some people that try and make it work, but you gotta be like Corey. You gotta be like right next to your work, and hopefully it's like a built up area where you're getting shade from buildings or something. But like right now, like today, like I can tell it's hot outside right now, just inside. I can tell,
Yeah.
but the high today is 113.
Yep.
So like, okay, you want to bike or walk to work. Like you'd have to shower when you get there. Like I don't even understand, like I don't understand. Like no, it's not even an option. So yeah, everybody here. As soon as I graduated from college, got home, and got my first real job, like I had to get a car. There was like no way I could keep up the bus thing. So.
Oh, I want to mention this about Civics too, because I did do a trade-in with my car, and my Civic was at 190,000 miles. And I will say this, like the value of that Civic was like still over half of what I bought it for in trade-in. Sorry, what?
What was the mileage?
180 to 190,000.
Wow.
And the value was about half, maybe a little over half of what I had bought it for new.
It's a seller's market.
That's another thing about, but another thing about Civics is like specifically like Hondas have crazy resale value too. So
well, and if you take care of it, like, what year was the one you just sold?
Oh my gosh, I think like this is going to tell you how often I drive. I think it's like a 2012.
Okay, so fairly new. Okay, so my Fit is a 2010, and there's a trend. I think 10 was maybe the first year where Hondas, they were transitioning from like the traditional rubber belts to the chain, now the metal chain, which is way better, because if like that belt dries up and snaps, like that can basically ruin your engine. Like it's a very expensive fix, and it's an expensive thing to even get the belt changed, because you got to basically take the whole front end apart to get at it. Now the chain, like it'll last the life of the engine. So if you're doing your oil changes, periodically doing like a transmission oil change or transmission fluid change, and keeping up on your plugs, like that car might sort of run forever, So there's like a Honda at least. So like that's, they hold their value. It's pretty great.
Yeah, they're crazy. And another thing about Honda, well, anyhow, now we're doing a car commercial for Honda, but I very much believe in that company. I actually really look forward to like when they expand their EV line and like really, again, that price comes down a bit on EVs.
Me too.
Like, dude, that would be amazing.
Because I would be surprised if Tesla's ever going to make something that's in my budget, like something that I want to buy. And I see now like Ford and GM, like they're starting to double down on investing in electric, because they see like this is the way it's going.
Yeah, and that Ford will probably make the worst possible electric vehicle.
That's the thing. Like it's great for the electric vehicle market. I'm not interested in buying a Ford, but like that will hopefully hasten this like switch where eventually Honda or Toyota or someone will continue to, refine. And that's the one I probably want.
If I was going to buy a Ford, because it's a car that I think the people who don't want to own Fords have known people who own Fords. Or owned a Ford. Like those are the people who don't want to own a Ford.
Yes.
But I'm going to say, if I'm going to have a Ford, you got to go with like a ridiculous gas guzzling, just like car that like, even if it breaks down, at least it's fun and crazy to drive. Like you have to go with like
it's got to be a muscle car. Yeah. You can't. Yeah. Why are you?
That's the only Ford I have interest in. Like if I was going to do Ford.
Yes, we've pivoted from Star Wars to
the anti-Ford
talking cars. Yeah.
I'm not even a car person.
Neither am I. Not at all.
That's part of why I have to, like, that's another scenario where people in California with long commutes, like I have, if you were like savvy with cars, then you could do the used thing in my scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, not at
Well,
all.
that's why I drive a hatchback. I don't I don't give a shit. Like as long as it runs and it's reliable, you know, like sounds good. All right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I remember I got that car. I think I had only had it a year, maybe less. And I was pulling out of a lot. There was a kind of a funny lot with like a dramatic kind of slope down to the road, and there was a really high embankment next to it. And I was like, it was a awkward turn to make to get out, and I was feeling hurried for some reason. And I dragged a little bit of the side of the car along this like concrete thing. And there's still to this day, it's like a foot long, like kind of ugly, like scuff, like along one side. And like, I hated myself, you know, as soon as you do it, it's all your fault. You can't blame anybody. It's like, shit. And I hated it on that level. But in terms of like, oh, but now I have this ugly gash, it never crossed my mind to get it fixed or painted. Like, I don't care. Like, it's kind of the car. I've had a crack in my windshield for going on like 2 years now that I can't be bothered to fix. Like, I'm not a car guy. It
We're
needs
also
to be
cartoonists. We just don't have time. That's the catch. You know?
no time and no money. Like, it's gonna be $500 to fix the windshield. I can think of 8 other things I'd rather spend $500 on.
Yep.
You know,
Agreed.
Like,
Agreed. I will say, you know, if you guys want to help Gary out in that money situation, you guys should be buying Dinosaurs versus Mars bots.
That's right. Help me fund my windshield repair.
Yes, and aside from that, like, it is limited, and Gary like is not BSing around when he's saying like
I don't keep them in stock at all times. Like, it'll sell out, and it'll probably be sold out again for a little while.
He can't keep those he can't keep them on his lot. Like, they're just flying off the lot, you guys.
That's right.
So that's the worst thing about car buying right now, is the fact that the seller, like, it's the most predatory of sales scenarios, and yet like they are actually in a scenario where cars are literally flying off the lot.
Yeah.
And so they always pull that anyway, where they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, it may not be here tomorrow.
May not be here when you show up, or I don't know if I can. Yeah. Right.
But now they're in that advantageous situation where it is actually that scenario, which is insane.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of people who, especially with like some of these used cars.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of real decisive buyers, you know, who are just in like, sure, okay, give it to me. Because like they haven't been able to find what they want.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, used cars are going for crazy amounts right now. If you were selling a car, this would be the time to do it.
And I bet I could get good money from mine. But then the question is like, well, what do I buy?
Yeah,
you know, so it's fine. Mine's paid off, so it's like,
I think you need to get it like a scooter, like a Vespa.
Yeah,
I think that that Arizona is definitely Vespa weather for sure.
Yeah, for sure. 113.
Yeah.
This is the bad stretch of Arizona summer where the highs for the next 10 days are the coolest high is 101.
Yep.
But the rest are ranging from like 113 to they're all above. It seems most of them are around 110.
Yep.
Sucks. Like the lows, this sometimes is helpful to people too. Like the low tonight is going to be 86. Like probably at 4 a.m. it'll be a nice cool 86 outside. People are swimming in that weather. Like it's terrible.
And I'm probably in like one of maybe 3 places in California that can slightly relate to that because of the fact that I'm in, you know, the like near the Mojave Desert, basically where I live. So it's like it does get in the hundreds like quite frequently.
Yeah.
And the weather where I live is so intensely hot. People are like, "How could you live there?" But it's like we still get that like that breeze, every once in a while. And
See, yeah. And we
yeah,
don't.
but
It's just still. And yes, it's not humid. And yes, I will grant humidity is worse.
yes,
I've
humidity.
been to
If you
the
took like,
Midwest. I've been to the South.
yeah,
Sucks. It's
if you
terrible.
take the thermometer and you turn it down like 10 degrees and it's humid, it's not better. It's
No.
oh my gosh, yeah.
No, I will take this 113 here over 90 in Oklahoma City or 90 in like Charlotte.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. Like
Yeah.
that because that sucks. That's
Yeah.
awful.
I don't know how people do humid. I don't.
No.
I don't. And also humidity is just I don't know, it's anyhow. It's also one of those like it seems like every kind of crazy disease also like loves that kind of humid climate,
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, I think I'll pick this this spot that's all
Nice.
boggy
Yeah.
and wet in the
You got
air.
a lot of nice mosquito vectors and everything. It's kind of a perfect environment for everything. But,
Have you thought about like so? Does every dinosaurs versus Mars bots? Is it all going to be desert like area?
No, actually, the this one you don't even see where this one's all interior.
Yeah, this one's locale could be kind of anywhere, right?
Yeah, well, I know where it is. It's like southern Arizona, but it's all you're in a facility, so you're never seeing like the landscape like you do in the previous two.
Yeah.
The next one is actually going to be in a forest, which is a very particular one that I'm looking forward to. I got to go scout. Once I finish this one, I got to go scout locations and get some reference photos to get a feel for what this place looks like, because I know exactly where I want it to be. But it's like a forest, 100 or 150 miles northeast of the Phoenix area. So that one will be a very much like a mountainous forest story. It'll still be Arizona.
Yeah.
And then the fifth one, am I doing that right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, the fifth one is a secret where it will be, and the sixth one it will be like in the Phoenix area. So
nice. That's pretty awesome. So if your property ever blew up, maybe that's the stuff that other artists could work on, would be like,
what's going on around the world.
Yeah,
or
different states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I always liked the idea, just to play pretend, like if that was ever a thing. I like the idea. I mean, to me, D versus M is very much, it's a character story.
Yeah.
And I think it would be important, whoever was doing it, part of making a character story, I think, is infusing it with a little bit of local character.
Yeah, for sure.
So like if you're gonna, you want to tell a story about what's going on, like Squatch wants to buy a license to do D versus M California, basically, or something like that. I would hope he told sort of a California story in a way, like something about it. Kind of, actually, who'd be perfect for D versus M California is Jim Lujan, because I think like he would like understand sort of like, at least in LA, Southern California, kind of the dregs of society, like just these weird edge characters, like something happening to them, like that. I want that flavor. Like that's kind of something I try to do with these, is like, this is small town Arizona. These are the kinds of people you come across. These are, I would want, if it was going to be D versus M Maine or D versus M Florida or D versus M California, like it has that.
Yeah, like if it were Florida, it could literally be anywhere in the state with any Floridian, really. But any other state, it should be really like the dregs of.
Right. That's a good question, Squatch. Let me see how far it is from Snowflake.
I always trash Florida at any opportunity, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think it's an easy.
Yeah. It's definitely punching down, but you have to.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, Squatch. As a matter of fact, I didn't really think about this, but not close, but not far from Snowflake. It's more. If you look at a map, I don't want to spoil the location yet, but where I'm picturing it is forest, more west and a little south of there. But that same kind of train, like if you watched Fire in the Sky, that same kind of environment, like Rocky Mountains with like pine trees. But we will talk lots more about D versus M number 4 probably next year. Let's see here. I'm not far from Scott, Frank, but I'm not close. I guess, Scott is sort of, I guess it's the Phoenix area. I don't know if you would call it that. To me, it's pretty north. Like it's sort of, but it's a drive, but it's not. It's a drive for the Phoenix area. The good thing about Phoenix, unlike LA when I've been there, is like no matter how far something is, it's never more than like a 30 or 45-minute drive. Like no matter where you're going. Where LA, like if you're on one end of LA and you need, or LA area, LA County, you want to go to the other area of it, like that could be a serious, like that's a task. That's a journey. So it's, is it, I think of it as far, but from a Phoenician's mindset, where it's probably a 30 or 45-minute drive,
which is like pretty short for LA. I mean, that's, if you lived in downtown LA, that would be just getting to the grocery store.
Right, exactly. Yes, Squatch. Yeah, in Muggy and Rim sort of area. There's a specific spot with its own name, but yeah, you're closer. You're getting warmer, but that's.
So I have a strange question. Are you guys? I want to talk to Scott about it too, but just something to think about. You don't have to answer, especially on air. But I got the email to renew my table for LA Comic-Con at Artist Alley. And I was thinking about doing it, but also I wouldn't mind splitting it if anyone's interested in LA Comic-Con type area and like a half table. December. So just throwing it out there as a thing.
Holiday times.
Yeah. So anyhow, the thing.
I'm not being shifty. Send me the dates. Yes. And then we have to kind of sit and think about it. But I'm not instantly ruling that out. Like it's sort of interesting.
Yeah.
But I have to kind of figure out like where I am and what I'm doing and where I am with 79 and if I can take a few days.
Cool. All right. I will do that. But I'm trying to be better with like pre-thinking conventions, and also I like the idea of splitting tables more and more.
Yeah, no, me too. Like that's a big, like I would have gone in on a table for myself for next year at Phoenix Fan Fusion anyway, but the fact that Scott Lost and Keith Foster offered, it's like, why don't we get 2 tables and divide it among the 3 of us?
Yeah,
even better. Like anything that reduces the overhead, and like as kind of a like, okay, if you do that for me, you guys can crash at my house, so like cut the Airbnb out of it, like let's like anything that reduces the overhead and makes it easier to break even. Sure.
Yeah, and it's like it just makes it way more feasible to like do cons without like losing your shirt, or like even if you're gonna make profit, it's like it doubles your profit. I mean, I know having more presence can also increase traffic, but it's like, I don't know. I'm becoming more and more convinced of the sharing tables thing being the way.
Definitely, especially as those table fees continue to go up, and like one big table, especially for what I'm doing. Like I'll fill a table, no problem, but like I don't need that. Like I can get by, especially I can't do the math in my head, but two tables divided three ways, like whatever portion of a table that makes you end up with. It's probably about 2/3. Is that right? But like that's plenty for me. Like that works. Squatch, have you actually been this far out? It's beautiful forest up there.
I never even associate forest with Arizona.
Yeah, I know. Everyone pictures. Well, and people like so I'm a grad of Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, which I have pitched if the California crew and Corey want to make the journey out here. I have pitched. It's like maybe we could even meet in Flag because that's sort of a drive from the Grand Canyon. You could check the Grand Canyon off your list. But Flagstaff, where I went to college, it's up in the mountains. There's skiing, there's trees, there's snow in the winter. It's beautiful. And like people don't think of that. Like when they hear like I went to college in Arizona and we had like 2 feet of snow in the winter, they're like, you know what? And it's like, no, yeah, and what's crazy is it's like 140 miles up the hill from Phoenix.
No, I mean, it makes sense because, like, California, same thing. Like, if people find out I live in LA County in California, they're like, that beach weather, huh? And I'm like, I live in a desert, dude. Right. Like, there's no beach.
Right. And I know that because my aunt, she was a civilian working for the Navy for many, many years. And she lived in China Lake, which I don't know if which is like kind of out. Not near, but like sort of like where the Manson family lived. Like it's out, like, you know, it's just like it's in the middle of the scrub desert. So yeah, California is a diverse place. But...
Well, that's exciting. I'm kind of, I do think I like the Arizona character of DVS. So it makes sense that like you'd want to kind of keep in that area, but also like kind of show a little bit of like change up the landscape a bit.
Yeah.
I'm literally coloring the last page that takes place in a room that I hope to never have to draw in my life again. I'm at that point. I'm like 17 pages where the majority of them have been the same room.
Yes.
I'm over it.
This is just where I'm coming off of. Page 17 was, let's see here.
This is like, this is like an insider look into the little joys that we get as creators, right?
Yeah. So the last page 17, that was the 12th page of one room that I was overdrawing. Like I was just so excited. It's like, thank God we're out of this room. Like that I'm never going to have to draw this again. There's going to be lots of other hard things to draw, but thank God I'm at least done with that part. And there's a character that you're basically never going to see again in the story. That's like, thank God I never have to draw this person again. Like it's nice when you hit these little milestones where it's like, all right, there's some progress here. But
yeah, you got to take joys in those little victories where you're just like, oh, I never have to do that again. Even things, I mean, initially we're kind of designing these things ourselves in general. And so it's like, it's the weirdest thing about cartooning where it's like we're like a bad Creed song where we've created our own prison,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You always find a way to bring up your favorite band.
Yeah, that is my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
Wait, no, it's not Creed that Jim always mentions. What's the other one? It's as bad as Creed. I just can't. What is the one? Do you remember, Corey? The band that
Zeppelin?
No, there's a band that Jim is always trying to get me to talk about the joys and how brilliant.
I'm going to be honest. Literally every time everybody starts talking about music, my brain immediately shuts off.
Oh, okay.
So I can't remember because I know so little about it compared to the rest of you guys.
I just remembered it. It's Nickelback. That's apparently
Nickelback.
according to Jim's canon. That's my favorite band from what Jim has created.
Yeah, that tracks.
Let's see here.
Congrats on getting to the finish of that page, though. That sequence. You don't have to draw that environment anymore.
Yes, it's a relief. Squatch, I guess it's not a huge spoiler. So, for my number one fan, that's the main location of D versus M number 4. Just so you know. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's beautiful. And since it'll be featured in D versus M, also the site of horrific classified activities, but also beautiful.
Horrific and classified.
Yeah.
So do you ever worry that you're going to be dead on with something from Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots and then you're going to get disappeared?
What are you talking about? It's all dead on. Haven't you read the introductions? This is all completely authentic material being leaked. That's the only thing keeping me alive is the fact that now, if they kill me, everyone will know it was true. So,
that's true. That's true.
Just corroborate. Yeah.
That's awesome. You've been there. Squatch, I don't know why I imagine this, but I just imagine you've never been to Arizona. I don't know why. That's a weird thing to imagine, I guess. But yeah, it's beautiful up there. But this is a good excuse. Once I'm done with 79, the plan for next year as part of my prep for number 4 is going to take a trip up there for the weekend and just get a feel and take 1,000 reference photos because I want it to look like Arizona Forest has a look, and I want just like everything else D versus M, I want it to be real world, and I want, especially if it's someone like you who's familiar with Blue Ridge, like to look at it, and the last thing I want is someone reading is like, that doesn't look anything like Blue Ridge, like I want it to look, no, it looks a lot. I've been up there and that's what it looks like. So.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I'm trying to be cognizant of is like I'm being very cautious to like be as period accurate with my book that I'm illustrating right now, just for that like 2 people who might actually like look at it and be like familiar with the history and be like, no, those didn't exist at that time,
Right.
Knowing full well that I'll inevitably get it wrong. It's like,
sure. I think you're doing your best to avoid like the obvious errors. I mean,
there's going to be 3 guys that get together after you publish that book on a live stream, ripping apart the historicity of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
super fans.
Some of it is, I think we're all like this. Like if you watch something or read something that and the characters are doing something that something about, and it's wrong, like it's distracting, it pulls you out of it. And the thing is, and I think the thing, especially when you're doing a period comic or something that's even contemporary but real world, there's someone out there that's their thing, so like I'm not a car guy, we just talked about that, but there are lots of car guys, so the Dodge in D vs. M 1975 has to be right. Because some guy's going to pick up 75 and they're car guys and they're going to be like, what the fuck is going on with this Dodge? Or like, what, like, that's not, like, what is he doing here with the grill? That's not what the grill looks like. Oh, he cheated that. Like, and I wouldn't be that way, but there are things I would be that way about.
Yep. Like guitars. When I see guitars inaccurately drawn, it bugs the hell out of me, where I'm like, that's not where the string's attached to. You're like, that's not just a knob for fun. That's the volume,
And I bet you see this all the time. There's a show where someone's playing a guitar and you can tell like they are not playing.
Oh yeah. Or
this music is being laid in and their fingers not even close to what would be coming out of that thing. Like, and it may not ruin it for you, but it checks you out.
Yep.
And for a moment, and I'm trying to avoid all the ones I can.
You don't want to be James Cameron creating a scene where you're drawing people like one of the French girls, and it's a way that no one draws ever.
Right. No one has ever done a life drawing like that. Yeah. And by the way, Leo's hands are clearly from a man 30 years older, who, as a matter of fact, is James Cameron. So yeah, it's no, for sure. That's me, like my job, I can't watch those CSI shows. Like it's like there's 5 minutes in, there's 14 things that are just wrong.
Yeah,
Like
you
that's
don't.
not how it works, and
Because I just keep picturing your job as like Gary, this picture, zoom, enhance.
yeah, enhance.
Can you zoom in on that?
Can we
Enhance.
rotate it? Can we enhance the reflection on that banister and see the suspect's face? Like this, this stuff's crazy. Or like just crime scene techs apparently being sworn officers with badges and guns. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's just, this is not how I knew this works. Like, the fact that, like, it seems like in the span of 2 weeks, a murder is solved, someone's arrested, convicted, and imprisoned. When, like, I'm working on cases that are 6 years old. Like this is, it just, it's like, okay. I tried.
Gary, I have this hair. Could you scan it and enhance?
Yeah. Can we get the, I think I saw that actually. What was it? One of those, they did get DNA off of a hair, and they were very clear to say, it wasn't like there wasn't any root there. Like it was the hair itself, and they somehow got like DNA off of it. Like it's like, okay, all right.
Yep.
It's just, I don't know. I can't. That's why I get really excited when I do see a crime show that's pretty good, pretty authentic. Like those are the ones that I really like. Thank God, like this one at least is legit. Like they're doing things. But even some of the best ones, they'll have one scene where it's like they never do that. That's never a thing. Like that would never happen. It's just drama. Like I really enjoyed The Fall, which I think is on Netflix. It's starred Gillian Anderson. It is like she's like some sort of detective in, I don't know if it's like the UK or Ireland or something like that. And she's chasing down a serial rapist murderer. And that one was almost perfect. Like a lot of it was great, except for one scene. And then it's even more jarring because it's like, because it like when you get numb when it's like we realize like, oh, this is just some writer bullshit and it has nothing to do with reality, you sort of give it permission. But when it's almost all right and then they make one glaring error, it's like, come on, like what are you doing? But there was one part where they did the TV thing where like we have the victim on a slab in the morgue and we're bringing the family in to identify them. Like, as far as I can tell in my experience, and I've worked at morgues, like, and I've done it, that never is a thing. Why would you do that? There's so many other ways to ID somebody. DNA, dental, why would you traumatize someone by bringing them in to see their murdered, raped daughter? Like, that's crazy talk. Like, and as far as I know, never happens. Maybe 100 years ago, but like not today. And The Fall did that. And I was like, oh, you're doing so well. You just, it was, everything else was right. And then you can tell it's because like the writer couldn't resist. I love the drama of that idea, even though it's not a thing in my experience. But
yeah, I wonder how, because it's funny. My brother was LAPD, and he used to talk about like he used to have trouble watching movies just because of the way people held guns.
Yes.
Like it would just drive him nuts, and he would rage quit a movie because he's like, yeah. I can't watch this anymore. You wouldn't make that shot. Like you wouldn't be able to shoot that person holding the gun like that.
Because I was raised, like my dad's a veteran and an ex-cop. I grew up in a gun family, not these kind of weirdo Second Amendment, people with a flag on their pickup truck. But like a normal, to me, what I consider normal, non-psycho gun culture.
Gary does have Arizona gun culture. The Constitution tattooed on his arm, though.
Exactly, and so I
he does on his lower back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was learning how to shoot when I was like 6 years old. Like so that 100, that's one of my things where I see someone holding a gun weird or unsafely in a movie. I'm checked out. And that was the thing in 75. I went down the rabbit hole of like, how would the men in black probably in that era have been trained to hold a gun? And I had them different, where the older man in black kind of had more of a World War II era training, like what a G-man, like an FBI guy probably would have been trained with. where like the younger guy who's a Vietnam vet, he's trained a little differently on how to be holding a firearm. Because that's where my orientation is, where it's like, if I saw this wrong, I would be very annoyed. And anytime I see in a movie someone tilting, like unnecessarily canting a weapon, turning a pistol, or turning like a rifle, like in a weird, it's like, what are you doing?
What I would really like to see in a movie one time is I'd like to see somebody like turn a gun and shoot it and have the gun just fly out of their hand and they hurt their wrist.
Or pop them in the head from the recoil, or completely miss their shot, because that's not how a rifle is shot in the right. Your rifle, for everyone who doesn't know why that would bother me, like people doing assault weapons like this, like canting an assault weapon, bullets just are basically traveling there like this. They're lobbing.
Right.
Okay. And that's how they're sighted in. That's how you're calibrating your sight, your scope, whatever you're doing to go like that. As soon as you do this, now it's going like this, but canted. Your sights are all wrong now. Now you're going to be way off.
Now it's like Wanted. You're like bending the shot.
Yeah. It's like, you have no idea now where that bullet's going to go. So it makes sense if you have a gangbanger doing it who doesn't know what the F they're doing. But like when you see a military person doing that, a cop doing that, someone who's trained, like that's where you know it's like, this is just.
Especially if they're holding like I mean, I think the biggest pet peeve is the 9mm one-handed. And it's like, no, if you're properly using a handgun, you're going to have it resting on your hand.
You would never choose to go one-handed.
Yeah.
Unless something's going on with your other hand, why would you do that? And
that's like opting to miss your target and accidentally shoot somebody.
Let's make the shot as difficult as possible. And
the other one that annoys people is like the shotgun indoors thing, where it's like a cop using a shotgun indoors with like paper thin walls. Like, oh, come on, like again, like there's basic gun laws and rules, like not laws, but just like rules that like proper gun ownership is. And one of them is like, you don't shoot a target that like has like an area behind it of questionable possible people behind it.
I just saw that,
like walls. Like,
and that's the other thing I see all the time. It'll check me out. I caught a little bit of I wasn't sitting and watching Squatch, don't be worried. I wasn't sitting and watching, but I walked through the living room the other day, caught a little bit of Stranger Things. And there's this guy going for cover in a house, normal house, behind a wall, where someone's shooting what appears to be some sort of M16 variant at them. They would be 100% killed. That bullet's going to go right through that wall. Like it was nothing, like it was cardboard. Like that's no problem at all. Same with cars. When people are hiding behind cars, they're hiding like, oh, they're down, they ducked under the windshield. They would be dead. Cars don't stop bullets, guys. They go right through that. The only thing that's going to stop a bullet in a car is maybe the engine block. Or like if you can get behind like the axle, something like that might slow it down. If you get down behind like a tire, you might be all right back behind the engine block. If someone's shooting you through the door, you're dead. Like there's nothing. It's a couple thin things of steel. It's going to go right through that. In fact, it might be worse because it's probably going to fragment the door into your body. I've seen it. I've done the pictures. I've done the diagrams. You're not safe. Like it's just, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, I can't watch this. Like this guy would be 100% dead. You know?
I wonder if at some point, Gary, we're going to be watching like one of those crime procedurals or something where they're interviewing experts, and then it's going to be like you with like where it says like Gary Hodges, like like artist or whatever, like underneath, and then you're like, yeah, so we ran this through and enhanced, and then we got the guy. The guy.
Yeah, we zoomed in on this 188p security video. We zoomed in. We zoomed in 1,000%.
Which, by the way, there's all security cameras are always recording. Like,
it's always recording.
Yeah, they always have a clear picture.
Like the lens is always nice and clean.
Yeah,
it's always pointed exactly where it needs to be pointed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going right. And then we zoomed in 1,500% and used our sharpen algorithm. and it was beautiful. We could just barely make out his tramp stamp peeking above the back of his jeans. And that's your man. Like, it's not how it, I can't tell you how many, like nowadays, if you're out in public, at least in a major city, like, or a major metropolitan area, just assume you're on camera. Like, it's amazing how many cameras are just everywhere. Okay. Almost every major felony I've worked on that took place outside of someone's home, like there's some video. We've had video of like drive-bys where a bus was going by and the bus has a camera on it, and you got a little bit of the drive, like the road rage incident on a bus cam. Like, everything's being recorded. It's never good. Like, it's never like usually it just creates more questions where it's like, that could be the suspect's car, or like that could be the suspect, but you don't know. Like, but you have the shooting, like you have the stabbing, you have the whatever it is, but it's like, it's a little murky. It's a little funky. It's a bad angle. It's from a distance.
I think it's also one of those things of like, it might have to do with people's backgrounds too. This is when I was younger, and it's like a story I've told before, but it's like, I used to work graveyard shifts at like an AM PM. Really good job choice when I was early in college. And I got robbed at gunpoint like a couple times, and it was tough. It was kind of a weird job. But the first time I got robbed at gunpoint, we have a security camera, all that stuff. And I'm like, well, we got it on camera, right? And what a lot of people don't realize is like the footage is terrible on those security cameras. Second off, like we did have them on camera, but like now we're trying to find a person. And they're a person of like a description that could match like half the population in our city.
Yeah.
And like they were wearing a hoodie, which guess what? Like anyone could have now it's like, okay, let's put out a search for like out of the, like, what are they going to knock on every door in the
right.
So like the likelihood of somebody getting caught, even doing armed robbery, is like really slim. It's a lot slimmer than people realize.
To your point, I just watched a video 2 days ago at work.
Yeah.
Where a guy shot a bouncer at a bar or strip club or something like that. And it's a guy in a hoodie with sunglasses wearing a mask because of pandemic. It's like, all right, well, put the APB out, boys. Guy with mask and hoodie. That's a good example of like, we have the crime on tape and it's not helpful.
Yeah. It's just one of those things of like, not to say that like, people don't get caught, people do. That's kind of
some people do.
Thing.
Yeah.
But we're not in a world where like everyone bad gets in trouble and everyone good gets away with it. Like and it's like, it's an interesting thing when you start realizing, like, especially if you live in a city, this. I mean, like if you live in an inner city, especially, it's like, like, come on, like they don't always get the bad guy. And it's cool when they do. It's cool when they do. And that's an example. Like, I forget where I had heard this. It's a long time ago, but, somebody was talking about like locks, and like the idea of like locks on your car or on your door isn't to prevent people who are going to break into something. Like they'll find a way, but the people who otherwise wouldn't, maybe it's a person who's down on their luck and it's like they're just trying doors or something like that. That's usually what the lock's going to prevent. It's
kind of like the old thing about like, if you're out trying to outrun a bear, you only have to be faster than the guy next to you.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing with, I think, security.
Yeah.
And even like personal self-defense. You just need to be a little bit more trouble than everybody else.
Yeah.
For sure, like there's ways into your house. There are ways to get into your car. Like, it's not that hard. It's just like, is it more of a pain in the ass than, the place
you're just making it harder, but it's like, I think there is this weird kind of fiction sometimes of security in life in general. It's like even people who are kind of like, I think we've all known people who are risk averse when it comes to like, things, and it's good to be risk averse, but with especially like building an art career, like I've talked to people who are really risk averse about that, like, getting illustration work or something like that. And it's like, Well, I mean, there is risk though, like in everything. Like
Yeah.
existence is risk. And
Right. It's
so
an odds thing. Like you're
yeah,
just minimizing odds. And
yeah,
like even then, like no matter what you're doing, whatever your situation is in your house, and I think I'm pretty middle of the road. Like I've
yeah.
got security doors and I've got some like ring cameras, but like I'm not like, you know, putting security bars up on the windows. Like I'm not going crazy. Like there's basic, like some minor obstacles, you
Yeah.
know, deterrents. But like no matter what your situation is at your house, I'm telling you right now, it's not Fort Knox. Somebody can get in.
Yep.
And it means no matter what you've got going on, like you don't need to be carrying in your new 60-inch OLED TV like in the middle of the day where everyone can see what it is. You don't need to like, you know, like there's if it's attractive enough, people will overcome the obstacles, like whatever you're doing. Or what I see all the time and always astonishes me, people who deal drugs out of their house. And like, of course, like they take security very seriously. They got drugs and cash and weapons in their house at all times. Okay. So they got the bars and they've got the cameras and they have all that stuff. And they regularly get robbed and murdered because people know you got drugs and money and guns in your house. It doesn't matter what your security situation is. Motivated people can overcome that. And that, like, so that's kind of a lesson in that too. You know, it's like you just don't flaunt whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and like I think especially when you're writing, it's like we've talked about this, like Corey and I and you have talked about this a lot, where it's like there's this sense of like I think as an artist, even when you're writing fiction, you're doing truth telling, right? And
Yeah.
it's like I feel like even some of the little flourishes that we were talking about that people will do on like a crime drama or something like that, I think it can be really it can like lose authenticity. And I think building a world that's too padded, like Sendak used to talk about this all the time, but a world that's too padded and safe is not like a fiction reality that like people like feel like I don't know if that makes sense. It's like they might even like it, but I don't think they're going to relate to it or like create. It's not going to create that like authenticity that I think a lot of artists are going through. So like I do think that's it's important to like be aware of those kind of things, like the truth of the world sometimes when you're writing fiction. Because if you're coming from a fictional understanding yourself, then what the fiction you're writing is going to be really hard to buy, you know.
It's funny you say that because I just wrote down a quote the other day. I was
Did
listening
Frank
to
just say every
what that.
felony he's committed? Sorry. That's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty funny. I was listening to an interview with, and I'm totally unfamiliar with this guy's music or the band. I've heard the name a million times. I can't tell you if I've ever heard one of their songs, but it was the lead singer of Imagine Dragons, I guess. I don't, yeah. And he was talking about how when they were cutting their latest album, working with the producer, they're deciding what tracks are going to go on it and what aren't. And one of the sorting approaches was he felt they were all like of equivalent quality. He felt they all felt pretty good. But the producer, I think Rick Rubin, the famous Rick Rubin, he was picking out one in particular. He's like, I don't buy it. I don't think you really feel this. Like, I don't think, you know, this isn't authentic. And the guy realized like there was some difference to it. And his new edict going forward was kind of like, whatever the song is, whatever the thing he's doing, he was asking himself, like, is this true? Like, does it feel true? Does it feel real? And I wrote that down and stuck it on my monitor because I was like, I think that's sort of like he articulated something I've always had in the back of my head with D versus M, where it was like, it doesn't matter how fantastical this gets, as long as the character experience feels real. Like
Yeah.
these people, this feels like it's something if it feels, I want people to be able to say, Gary is saying something true here in the midst of this nonsense premise, you know, like what there's like bits in here that are very real. And like I thought that was like maybe just generally a good way to approach any kind of creative thing, but especially fiction. Like, is there something real here? You know, are we grounding this somehow? And look, we've got another special guest. Look out. America's favorite baker's wife. Right there.
Oh my gosh.
I want to know if he changed into the Black Sabbath t-shirt before he got on the stream. Like specifically, he's like, "Oh, I'm getting the stream."
What is on the hat while he fake sleeps? What is on the, let's see. Oh, he's fake rousing now. Oh, I fake woke him up.
I think he was fake rousing so you could see the front of his hat.
Yeah, he had to check what hat he had put on. Where am I? What day is it?
Jim, was that a Van Halen hat?
No, it's a Peterson Auto Museum hat. And I will have you know,
have you bought keychains from there?
I wore. Oh no, because Josh designed them.
Really?
Yeah. Oh wait, let me tell you something. Let me set the record straight. I wore this outfit to Costco this morning. Okay, so it didn't change for you guys. In fact,
He didn't know.
I wanted to find out. Is it true that have you guys been on for 3 hours?
We had. This is madness. 3 hours 15 minutes, and the reason I've been lazy getting back to it, Squatch. I hope you're not panicking. I'm ahead on my paycheck. I'm working on Scott's thing. So it's Scott's thing that's being slow walked right now, not D versus M. Don't worry.
So I was talking to my brother today, and I was saying one of the things I've learned that's true in my old age is that you are who you hang out with. And Gary, since you started hanging out with those other two guys, your podcasts are going like 3 hours long now.
I know.
And I just want to say, if they're going to make you smoke drugs or drink beers, you just tell them no, Gary, because
this is a bad.
It doesn't matter.
Just
they're not really your.
Don't listen to this square, Gary. You're one of us. You're one of us now. Here, have some drugs.
Smoke some of these drugs with us.
Please, let's smoke the drug and get the high.
Are you taking pot?
Just transporting it, just taking it somewhere.
Taking pot.
Of the best. You guys, like one of my favorite movies is Almost Famous. I just think it's incredible. But it's like, I love that scene where the mom points to like the Simon and Garfunkel cover, and she's like, "Look at their eyes. They're on pot.
Yes,
they are on pot."
I do love. I was thinking about that movie just like a month ago. Like, I want to rewatch it. Yeah. I really loved, especially. I'm not comparing it, but after my little foray into freelance writing for Village Voice, I really enjoyed the element with Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs, working with the kid. Like, a lot of that was like, I especially appreciated that.
You know that Mark Maron's in that movie?
Is he really?
He's the isn't he the one who's like he's the guy telling him to drive through the gates?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if he has. Does he have a mustache in that movie?
Yes.
Or he might. I don't know. But yeah, he's in that. I didn't realize that till a couple years ago. But it's a really good movie. In fact, I own it. I should watch it too.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for Cameron Crowe movies because of Say Anything.
Speaking of Cameron Crowe, today we saw a hawk catch a bird, land on our back fence or on our telephone wire, and then fly into a tree up the street and murder the bird.
Wow.
And it was a huge, huge hawk. And our stupid cats were just laying right there in the middle of the yard. They could have easily been taken. So
easily. It reminds me, I need to shop for one of those owl decoys to put on the roof, because my car is getting hammered by the pigeon poop, like in a way that's not cool anymore. It was never cool, but it's especially not cool. These pigeons.
Are there trees on your street?
No, well, there's some, but not like I think they're sitting off the side of the roof or something. I don't know what they're doing.
I got the best visual of Gary walking out and being like, "Not cool, guys, not cool.
Not cool, really? You could go anywhere, right here." No, the last time they actually got like on the door handle on the passenger side.
I've had that.
You know what I picture? I picture Gary living on a street that looks like exactly like the Roadrunner and Coyote backgrounds.
Right.
So
It's
with
just
a little hut at the bottom of the
totally,
canyon.
like it's a dusty tumbleweeds roll by from time to
And
time.
like, once in a while, like Coyote falls from a cliff.
Those
Yeah.
saguaro cactus. Yeah.
He has to draw like a black hole on one of the Arizona landscapes just to get to work, like to create a tunnel.
Yes.
It's just like that. Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I've seen nature. I've seen Costco. I've seen fire. I've seen rain.
Family.
I've seen family. Oh, by the way, this is how you know Leanne doesn't hate you, because when I logged on right now, she didn't get up and walk away from the couch.
I gave you.
She had to. She gave me my phone. Handed me my phone.
That's a relief. Are you sure it's not just that she's concerned we're having an affair and she wants to keep tabs, just see what's going on? She
can't keep your enemies close, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I want to make sure this is on the up and up.
Wait, do me a favor. This is for reals too, and I don't care which one of you does this, but one of you, I did not explain at all the baker's wife to Leanne.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can one of you tell the story and explain what that is?
Corey has to be the one.
Corey, you might have to, because it's your wife, and you can use the words.
Yeah. So I think the question was asked. We had Gary and Malia on because they had both collaborated with Jim. And so we were talking about something, and I can't remember how it came up. And I said, I think you had asked if anybody had ever, if it would be really hard to play a part that you played it so well, but people hated the character. Right.
Good one. Yes.
And Leah was telling a story where she was in Into the Woods, and she was playing the baker's wife. And there was this old woman, and it's like community theater. So afterwards you go out into the foyer and everybody kind of talks to the actors and stuff. And this woman was just going down the line and just talking to each actor and just saying, I loved it. You did such a good job. You did great. And in that play, the baker's wife commits adultery multiple times and sings several songs about it and everything. Anyway, and this old woman just looks at Malia and goes, "You're just a whore."
That story is right. It's right up there with the Harry Potter story.
It's pretty good.
So Malia was like, "Well, I guess I did that well, I suppose."
So, and then then Josh said Baker's Dozen, and then I said Baker Street, and we just went on and on. So now
we just started calling each other Baker's wives.
So if I pull you aside sometime at Costco, Baker's Muffin, Leanne just said.
Wow, there you go.
So if I pull you aside at Costco and say, "Stop acting like a baker's wife," now you'll know what I mean.
Yeah. You know it's time to file for divorce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what it's like to get punched. I have to tell her that every once in a while.
Do they know what it's from?
Yeah. Oh. She asked me, Gary, if you knew what that was from. Not only does Gary know what, don't tell me what it feels like to get punched. Not only does Gary know what that's from, but he's also actively pursuing Amber Heard for a special friendship. So
a special friendship.
Yes.
As long as you've got the $1,000 a day wine budget for it, I think you could make a relationship.
That's insane.
Jim and I have talked about how though it's shameful to it.
Yeah.
Shameful. I never gave Amber Heard a second look until I started hearing these stories, and then I was like, I was sort of like,
Once we found out Crazy was in the mix, we're like,
yeah, she's fascinating. She's interesting.
She dresses really well.
Yeah, right. She knows how to put herself together.
She's no Jodi Arias, but she'll do.
No Jodi Arias, but who is? I mean, really.
Oh, yes. So the other question I had is, all in all, how I know you're doing Scott's pinup, but Squatch is here at my house, and
you have a gun right now.
He's got it pointed at me right now. Squatch, easy. He wants to know if you're, in general, on track.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of where you thought you would be.
Technically, I'm slightly ahead at this moment. So
Nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And Josh only has 7.5 years to go with all the 12 projects that he's working on.
Right.
So he'll be
Just
done with those.
I have like, about 213 pages left. So
And Corey has a chart in front of him right now that's charting his future injuries. So that's what is that? Like, what is that?
That's his very.
Oh, nice.
I'm just coloring it now.
Is that one of those ePods?
Yeah, it's an ePod. It's I bought it from a guy. It's from an Apple company, and it's they're great.
It's environmentally friendly. It's an iPad, but it's with paper and pencil.
Yeah, it's like
you have to crank it. You wind it up like those old walkie-talkies.
wait, Corey, could you pull up your iPad? I have some security footage, and I just want you to zoom and enhance. And then,
I can take care of that. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get like the proper rainbow colors on the skin of the.
Great.
Yeah,
and then
I
just that eyelash zoom and enhance.
Yeah.
I also was. I think I mentioned right off early in the thing. I spent a lot of. I experimented with a few basic colors for the zombie. I finally settled on. I think similar to what you did. It's kind of like a grayish blue something. But,
I don't even know what I did. I
and
just
some thick green blood
at this point.
Can I ask my Josh a few questions?
You were Josh?
You're Josh. That's very possessive.
Our Josh.
You stole my soul at hello.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my question is this. So like right now, I'm in between projects, but immediately started thinking of the next one, and it's kind of a cool area to be in because there's so much potential and there's so much, it could go this way, that way. And I know I've been here before, and I kind of like this, like when you're starting a new project. I don't like being in between projects and not having an idea what I'm going to do next. That I don't like, but I do like this early stages of where you kind of know where you're going. So I know you have so much stuff laid out in front of you for so long. How tightly plotted is it? And is it a matter of just going through the steps and motions of creating it, and you already know exactly where you're going? Because you have such a long road ahead. So like, how are you approaching that, and how do you keep it fresh, Josh?
It depends. Like with so I have 2 books ahead of me. I got this one that's collaboration that's written by my sister, and it's like the script is set, and in this case to keep it fresh, because part of the art is actually kind of creating it. Like again, like I know there's people who don't do this with artists and writers, but I think if you're doing comics and you're doing them with an artist, it's a co-collaboration. Like you're co-creators of the work. And if I were ever to write like a comic somebody was gonna illustrate, I would call them a co-creator, because like even on this historical fiction thing, there's like a crap load of research that I have to do on my end just to get a page done. And so like knowing that, and knowing that like it's pre-scripted and stuff, and I'm kind of doing it like alternating between like kind of when I feel like it. So either way, I'm working on it every day. But I'm trying to kind of batch the thumbnails like whenever I get sick of doing final pages, and then I'm trying to do final pages. I'm trying to kind of balance the two so that at least I have like 3 or 4 pages ahead of me, like that are approved by the editor, so I can always be working. That's the goal with this one. And then with 2 stories, it's like I have 20 pages done, and the whole book is thumbnailed. So it's just a matter of like time and sitting with the pages. So that's kind of the way I have it.
So you can jump between the 2 projects. Like if you just lose steam on one of them, you can jump between the. And then how is that working?
No, I can't. I'm on this project, the Not Death But Love, for the next year. That's
really? So 2 stories is going to be put like 2024?
Yeah, well, it's weird, but both will probably come out in 2024. So this book is due in 2023 for 2024 release. So that's why this is like high priority. But the second this is done, all the pre-production and stuff, or post-production, and like marketing and stuff goes into play on the publisher's end. So that's when I'll finish up 2 stories. So oddly enough, like both books will probably be releasing around 2024. At least that's the plan. But again, like these things may not, it's all kind of God willing sort of scenario.
When does Sins of the Baker's Wife come out?
That's a good question. You got to ask Corey on that. That's Corey's autobiography.
He is the sin of the Baker's Wife.
That's true.
You know what's funny is how many people ask me, does it bug you that your wife kisses other men? And I'm like, you mean, does it bother me that she is an actress? Like, it's such like I don't know. It's a funny question because I'm like, she's not like a possession of mine. I'm not like loaning her to the theater. It's such a weird,
Corey, next time, Corey,
her that I draw pictures. Like
next time when you answer them, just go, no, it doesn't bother me at all. I sort of enjoy it.
No, much the opposite.
Would you like to kiss my wife?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah.
As a matter
Or
of
you could
fact.
go the other way and say, like, I've never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, just get really upset. Just get like super upset and just be like,
Yeah.
"You're right. This is
Wait a minute.
unacceptable.
She's doing
Unacceptable."
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is weird when people. I've definitely noticed that with some, especially some men, like where they're so possessive of their wives, like it in like a creepy way, where you're just like, oh my gosh, like it's almost like it's like a manager. I don't know if this makes sense, but it's like when you work at a place where a manager like is just constantly like looking over your shoulder, and you're just like
Micromanager.
Yeah, it's like that, like, but like living with a micro. I don't know. I don't know how people do
Who
it.
has the energy? What is that? Like, I don't know.
Well, it's also insecurity too on their part, and the guy's part. So plus sometimes you just have to keep broad in line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
I think we all agree. So, is this show called Toxic Masculinity? Right. Am I on the right chat?
It is now.
This
Okay.
is a good. I always, every time I think of the opportunity, find an opportunity to mention it. Always worth queuing up the old Sean Connery interview.
Oh yeah.
He's on Barbara Walters. And I don't remember the whole context of it, like how it even came up, but Barbara Walters was like, you've said once that you are okay with everyone, like, slapping a woman. And she clearly, it was the softballiest of softball, like, now's your chance to walk that back. Now that you're older and wiser, walk that back. He just fully doubled down.
By the way, softballiest is one of the greatest philosophers of the Greek philosophers.
Yeah, not talked about it.
Bark once if you agree.
Sorry.
You lost the dog.
That was actually Josh. He was excited.
Yeah. All right. I think I need to do some earnest coloring. I think we've been going for 3 hours and 33 minutes.
333. That's my favorite number.
333.
That's actually the show I'm going to be on too on Artcasters. Remember, you guys, please pencil me in.
That's right, because you like I
like that.
I
think nobody's going to rewatch this because it's going to be so long. Like they're going to like, no thanks. I'm going to have to come up with some really.
Watch Josh's.
That's true. I got to come up with I got to do the title to make it clear.
There'll be 3 interesting things that happened in the show.
Star Wars, a lot of Star Wars talk.
Star Wars, Honda Civics, and
guns.
Jim is a misogynist.
Yes. Oh, Josh.
Call it Baker's Wives needs to be in there. Yeah.
Josh and I are Honda brothers now.
So what? I couldn't tell what type of Honda did you get?
It's a HV
P
CRT, I guess.
I don't know what that is. Is
Honda
it like
HVP.
So yeah, but it's a good car.
I didn't recognize it. So cool.
Yeah, it's like I guess that it's like the Fit used to be what this is now. Like they've replaced the Fit with this thing. So.
I see. Okay.
So,
And
but
then-
it's very similar to a Fit. It's a small, it's a mini SUV that doesn't guzzle gas. So
Got it.
It's very nice. I like it.
I
And then
like it too. It's a very
I
nice.
like it. It's
Very
not.
nice. What, Jim? What do you drive?
I drive a Civic, same color as Josh's car.
I drive an Accord.
A what?
A two-door Accord.
Two-door Accord. Okay.
It's
Mr.
like
fancy pants over here with his Accord.
no, I intentionally got a two-door for the same reason that I ride a motorcycle. I used to ride a motorcycle. It like dissuades people from driving with me. Like, you know how you always have like people like, hey, I'll just go in your car, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine if you want to crawl in the back through the front door like a child. You're welcome to join me.
Well, I haven't had to do that probably since I was a child. The old move where you put the seat up and have to like crawl.
You have to like kind of emerge from the car. Yeah,
the worst.
What
I
kind
think
of
that's
Honda?
the modest requirement I have of vehicles now, other than like reliable, will get me to where I'm going, is like 4 doors.
Yeah.
Like 4 doors. Not,
Gary,
no,
what kind of Honda do you drive?
that's a Honda Fit.
You have a Honda Fit.
Yeah.
So this is like the Honda Club.
Yeah. Yeah.
and you missed the boring part of the show. Where we were
Yeah.
talking
There was a
about
car conversation.
cars and tiny
This is
cars.
like the Honda Club, y'all.
It's the Honda Club. Look at you.
You
That's
guys,
how we all wear our hats. in the Honda
yeah. We need to soup up our Hondas and race them.
Hey,
I live in the AV too, so you guys can come visit, and like there's a lot of souped up Honda racing areas out here that we could start a racing team. It's gonna happen, you guys.
I
On a
don't know.
drift.
I don't know what would happen to my car if I floored it. I've never even attempted. I don't.
I live my life a quarter pounder at a time.
Though, here's a hook for a future episode. I had one of those radar cams flash at me the other day when I was driving. So I'm waiting now. Now's the wait to see if something shows up in the mail. But I've never gotten. A couple times it's flashed at me, but it never produced. Like I never got anything.
Well, you work for a court. If the picture only gets the hooker in the shot, do you still get the ticket, or
It's whoever you stole the car from gets the ticket.
that's fair?
Right,
That's
right.
fair.
Yeah.
Should
I was
get the car
thinking.
stolen?
I was
gotta-
thinking that, like, at work, do you think like they'll just mess with you since you work for the city and just be like, "Oh, hey, could you render this photograph?" And it's
Yeah,
like,
we need a
camera.
No, I'm county, so I would not have anything to do with what. And this would have been like Paradise Valley, which is a little
Strip
it's a
club.
town.
Almost every time I talk to you guys, it makes me appreciate where I live. Like so far, just today, you guys talked for quite a while about like all the ways that you've armored your house and the locks and the whatever.
Right.
Like I lock my doors, but I know people that don't even shut their front door,
Sure.
or they leave the keys in the ignition.
Well, those are called
Wait,
exhibitionists.
Wait, Corey, could you say on stream which houses have their have
for
their
the
doors
record.
unlocked? Just
like
want to
like just across the street.
Yeah.
And
and
then
then maybe their social security numbers as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Just-
Corey, you know that
anybody-
when you're all in the same militia, it's a sense of safetyness. So you
Right. We all watch each other's house. It's no problem.
yeah, with my new haircut, I have been
that
called-
doesn't lie.
It doesn't help.
You can blend a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's just fine. It's just funny.
So it looks like Frank is going to be looking for someone who has made and self-published a comic for an upcoming show.
I'm out.
We don't know anybody. I'm not sure we know anybody who meets that description.
I am not liking how this is colored, but I don't know what to do with it.
I really don't like coloring. It's probably part of why I'm dragging my feet and doing a 3.5 hour live stream because it's like I don't know.
I would just say if any of you guys want to do some flats for free, I have plenty to give you. If you want to just freely flat without credit or exposure, just let me know. I have plenty of pages.
Josh,
Man,
that's the name. That's the name of our
seriously,
album.
Josh.
Freely
Flat for
flat.
free. Flats for free.
The other
Right.
day during Artcasters, I was like, I'll just flat this real quick. I'm like, why do I not pay people to flat? I hate flatting so much and it takes so long. It's
I
just
can do the flatting. It's after that I kind of check out. Like I really find ways to tell myself like flatting's enough. That's enough. Like that's
Right.
it's good. It's good now. We'll
That's
just
all
make-
I needed.
Yeah,
It just needed flats. That's it.
that's
Yeah,
it.
I mean, luckily, what I'm working on, literally, it is done when it's flatted. So there is no rendering, which is great because the rendering is all on the line layer. But the downside is because of that, I couldn't have somebody flat it because it requires too much thinking.
Yeah.
Josh, your
Right.
project has kind of like a wine palette to me. It
Yeah.
reminds me of wine.
That's because it's Victorian. So
To me, it does effectively kind of reference. How do you pronounce it? Is it daguerreotype or what is the word? You should know this because you're doing
Dogecoin.
yeah, Dogecoin I think was it.
Dogecoin. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
No follow up on that at all. Okay. I like how you started by trying to figure out a word, and then you just keep.
I'm gonna find it right now. I'm gonna find it.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't think I know the pronunciation of the word either. That's why I'm being silent. And also, definitely I think Jim is correct, and it's highly influenced by Dogecoin, really.
When I don't
This
understand
comic about the Brownings really like hits the crypto bros. Like that's really the market I want to read this book about Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and I think crypto.
Isn't
bros.
the book called Love, Not Doge?
Yeah, it's not death, but Doge.
Yes.
This is it
crypto
right here.
bro.
No, you pronounce this.
The poetry crypto bro market is like a real like untapped potential.
It's a French origin. Would that
So
be like as someone who grew up in the Southwest, I want to say daguerreo, but I'm sure that's not what it is. It's like daguerreotype. I don't know. It's like pretty much any picture you'd find from that era of like maybe like Abraham Lincoln. It's that kind of like brown black kind of vignette looking edges.
Speaking as somebody with a firm junior college education, I don't even know what you're talking about. So
now I gotta come up with the pronunciation.
I bet you I'm not alone. I bet you there's others out there.
Daguerreotype.
Daguerreotype.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a sultry voice there.
That was
It was a
Wikipedia
sultry-
helping us out there. It's daguerreotype.
Cool.
Do that again.
Okay, hold on.
That was Gary's Prisoner.
Daguerreotype.
Seriously, do you have James Earl Jones tied up in the back there?
This is whatever on the Wikipedia definition it says listen. Like right there. So
It just
Wait.
Gary pans down and there's a guy in a dog collar with a chain.
Gary, you have to look up something really nefarious and creepy now on Wikipedia and have it read it out loud.
Yes,
I think
please.
to close
Yes,
out the
Will it
show.
do it in the same voice? Because that would be
Yes.
amazing.
I don't know, let's find out.
Saying.
Wait, are you typing in a word and it says it?
Daguerreotype.
it would have to be something that would be on Wikipedia. So throw out a thing. What's the thing?
Gary, type in moist.
Yes, moist is good. Yeah.
Well, that's not going to be on Wikipedia.
Oh, yes, it will. But the
No,
P,
it's not on
yeah,
Wikipedia. It's in all the definitions.
it's on
We can go-
Wikipedia. So, now try
What
it.
would be a Wikipedia thing that they would give you a pronunciation for?
You know what? Look up Alexander Crowley. I'm trying to think of like creepy stuff. That works. Crowley, right? Crowley's creepy.
Anton Levon, or what is that name?
LaVey.
Okay.
Wait,
Yeah.
Let's all name our favorite Satanists.
Mhm.
So Crowley is in here, but it doesn't have a pronunciation. Like it doesn't have a listen. It shows how to pronounce it, but it doesn't have.
Yeah, Dogecoin.
Oh, maybe Dogecoin is in here. Let's see.
Dogecoin.
Oh man.
And this is what the show's come to.
Yeah.
Yeah, daguerreotype is the process I'm kind of going for because it's I got the idea to do it in this style from Frog and Toad Are Friends, and the method that he was using on those like old books like Arnold Lobel.
Mhm.
I was just like, that would look really good for like a Victorian era kind of thing. Not that it was Victorian, because I think he was doing that in like the 80s, but it's like that idea of like the look of like a stat cam on just rendered pencil, and then using like, you know, thin like color tones underneath. Let's get back to creepy.
The book is looking beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful. And I don't know if it's the daguerreotype or Miss the Garrett type or what, but it reminds me of wine. That's all I'm saying.
There we go.
Mhm.
Wine. Fine wine.
Wine.
So
Indeed.
one last before I sign off. Jim, how is Sugar Machine going?
It is making me millions of dollars. Thank
There
you. It's going really well.
Look up Jim's net worth.
Yeah, we should see. Oh, I'll check right now.
Look up my net worth before we go. If it's
Jim,
less than 14 million, that'll tell us.
net worth.
It should be around, I'm guessing around 14 million right now. So
2022. Here, let's see.
let's go. Let's go.
Come on, loading.
Come on. It's all those digits.
Oh, you've been downgraded.
What?
Oh no.
600 grand.
Okay. We're going to have to, let's call somebody because this is ridiculous.
Weren't you 14 million just a little while ago?
Yeah.
It was 14 million.
It's that
Jim,
gambling.
you gotta stop
I told
that
you about
gambling. Yeah. That's true.
You know, it's all that Dogecoin.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Like the Squatch, I did not anticipate this. This is we're cutting this before 4 hours. This is outrageous.
Okay.
Who do I think I am? Josh Kemble? This is ridiculous.
That's true.
All right. Well, I'm just glad I got to join you guys, and I couldn't believe. I thought maybe you started late. There's no way he was gone 3 hours.
No. I started at the normal time, and it spiraled.
Sorry, guys. I have that effect.
Got caught up with Star Wars. I didn't want to color. Like there was just a lot of things that just kind of kept, And before I knew it, it's 3 hours and 47 minutes later.
That's literally. I mean, you're describing the process of how Jim went from 14 million to 600,000. I mean,
Wait, maybe
it happens before you know it.
Maybe that's in pounds or lira, because
true.
that's probably it.
Yeah.
So
could be euros. That's better,
Yeah.
right? I don't know.
Or euros.
Yeah, or euros.
That's how many it's lamb euros I'm worth.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
So,
which could be 14 million, maybe.
yeah,
Okay.
so it all makes sense. I mean, yeah, it's just how you look at it from a certain perspective.
You, because you're worried about volatility in the market, you converted all your assets into heroes. And Mm-hmm.
I like it. Let's stick with it.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for being a friend.
Go and buy Jacob's Apartment, which I intend to read tonight or tomorrow.
Wait, can we say which Golden Girl we'd each be?
I think maybe, boy.
Or maybe Frank should tell us.
Is Frank going to assign Golden Girls? Look, there's 4 of us here. How many Golden Girls were there? 4, right?
4.
Frank? Who's who?
I don't know.
I think he's going to make Jim the slutty one. Who was? I don't remember what her name was.
Blanche.
Was that Blanche?
Blanche Baker.
And then Rose was Betty White, right? Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh, wait.
Corey is Sophia.
Miss Blanche knew it. Yes.
Sophia.
Who's so? Which one's Sophia? Is that the old one? Like the? I mean, they're all old. The especially old one. Josh is Rose.
El Getty.
I think I want to be.
Oh, I'm
If I'm
Dorothy.
Rose, I have to at
I
least
love it.
vote Bloodhound.
I'm so
Gang
glad.
on
I'm
that.
very
Be like,
happy
hey,
with
I'm
this
not.
answer. I'm sort
I'm
of
not
this
going to be
sassy
white like Betty
purple.
White. I'm going to be black like Frank Black. You know, it is like that's.
Wait, which one's Rose? Is that
Rose is Betty
Maud?
White.
Oh, I'm like
Oh no. I don't think
Sophia's the
Josh would be
boring.
Rose. I think
Sophia's the boring serious one.
She's kind of the dopey farm girl, like the
no,
kind
I
of.
think Josh would be Maud. I don't know what's
That's
her
Dorothy.
B. Arthur.
That's Dorothy. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
apparently I'm Dorothy because I'm not Rose. I'm clearly not Rose. I don't
Which
think
one?
you're even taking this seriously, Jim.
I think. Well, no matter what, Corey has to be Estelle Getty.
Why is he Sophia?
Why am I the mom one? of this
Because
group?
he's the most adorable, pinchable one.
You know,
She wasn't pinchable. She was kind of grumpy and kind of.
She was like the wet blanket of the group.
question
She
is,
always was zinging everybody else. She
which
was
one
always.
of the group was the baker's wife? I want to know that.
That's Blanche, right?
So the funny thing about that last night, Malia goes, they really latched onto that baker's wife thing. I said, oh, that's going to be going on literally
On for a long time. Okay, look, in our defense, she found about 15 opportunities to say whore on YouTube that nobody needed her to do. So,
It
like,
was
you know,
Courtney
I'm not
Love
saying-
level.
yeah.
No, she wasn't saying that you guys were going after her. She was just
Oh, I know, but she
like
kind
it
of
came,
made
it came up
like,
a lot. I'm like,
you know,
there are jokes that we can't even remember where they started that still come up. Like there's something
Yeah.
about a kayaking bear, and none of us can remember where it came from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. The kayaking bear, there was a chair thing. I can't remember the chair one. It was like an assaulting chair. It's
that
yeah.
was through me somehow. What the hell was it? Now I don't even remember. But
It
it
that was
might have been
something.
a conversation about like Pee Wee's Playhouse, and maybe
Right.
just
Yeah.
Barry gets out of
that would make
control.
sense.
Something. Yeah. Yeah. And besides, that's Baker's wife's talk.
Yeah, that's true, guys. Let's stop Baker's wifing around the issue here.
I think, yeah,
That's a
this is my favorite
half-baked
one. At least for
idea.
the past few weeks, I really enjoy the baker's wife thing, and I really enjoy two stories.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you know, get ready for.
you guys have been
Story
talking a little too much about those stories, and
Yeah.
I got some
Tell
stories
Malia.
for
I
you
got some
here.
stories for you.
When you take a drag of your cigarette, Corey, tell Malia that's a half-baked idea. Just like that. We're horrible friends, by the way, guys.
We really are.
The worst.
I will tell you, she said it was fun to hang out with your friends again. I like those guys.
Yes,
There you
Because
go.
everybody but Gary, we hung out at my parents' house.
that's true.
Oh, I thought that was going someplace different. It's like
I thought you were
"Oh, hang
saying
out
that.
with those guys,
Yeah,
everyone but Gary.
Yeah.
Everyone but Gary.
Yeah, that too.
I had
No,
a
we
lot
all
of
had, like,
fun
we all had,
on
like,
this
Gary,
stream, you guys, with all of you, everybody but Gary. I mean, I
Yeah,
had
that's
so
a-
much fun.
Corey, have you met Gary in person, Corey?
No.
We need to.
So
I haven't met
Yeah.
any of you guys in person.
Here's
Oh.
what I propose. Everybody come up. We'll do a Yellowstone thing. We'll go kayaking.
oh yeah,
Millstone would be.
I've
cool.
got
I'm
the whole setup up here.
I would do that.
I would.
mean,
I've never been to Yellowstone. I would love to.
I
the
would feel
one
safe
thing-
because of the militia.
Yeah, the
I would
one
feel
thing
safe.
you need that militia to keep you safe from kayaking
Yeah.
bears, because that's what I hear happens up there. There's bears that hijack kayaks, and they'll just rock it the whole way.
It'll be a Baker's militia.
It's important to see Yellowstone before the mega volcano. erupts.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's master
True.
channel.
You should come. Even if it's gonna happen, because no matter what, it's gonna take out like this entire hemisphere.
Yeah, like you
Yeah, I
won't
mean-
be you live in Arizona. We probably won't be in good shape. So.
Gary,
If it happens, you're probably better off just being the early one out.
Right there.
Like,
Yeah.
you just,
You know, I read a really interesting story. I think it's called Outland, where Yellowstone goes off at the same time as this group of MIT students has figured out how to like jump into an alternate dimension. And it's really interesting. But they go through like there's these two groups of students, the geologists and these like MIT nerds that are like doing this thing. And then Yellowstone goes off and they all are like, well, let's bounce. And so they go into this alternate dimension full of like dinosaurs that never went extinct. Like that was the branch of anyway, and then they go back and forth.
Are you saying they did it from another dimension? Like another dimension? Another dimension? Okay,
Get it?
sorry.
Beastie Boys.
Oh, sorry.
I'm a nerd.
I missed.
Anytime somebody says alternate dimension multiple times, I just can't help it.
You have to say it in a robot voice, though.
Yeah, another dimension, another dimension.
Hey, Gary,
Right.
is there any way you can play us out today with a Golden Girls theme?
I don't know how to do that.
Damn it.
Stop being a baker's wife and make it happen.
Make it happen. Yeah. Let's see. All I can really do is I can play it. Tell me how the audio is. Oh, wow, the extended version.
Let's hear it.
Hold on.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
And remember, everybody, in this Blanche right there.
I'm not ashamed to say.
See you next week, everybody. Squatch, don't worry. I'm ahead. It's all going great. Bye.
Bye.